We are live.
Oh, hi.
Alright, here we go. So, it's Stone Guy 223. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Got a few people here with us this evening. See, from my left, we got Tachikoma.
Good evenings, all.
And next to him, we got Mule Rider. It's his first time on the chat.
Hey.
Mr. Cork 71.
Holy crap, I'm early in this lineup.
Then we got Ryan.
Ciao.
And Sean.
Hello, all.
And Thin Blue Line.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So this is kind of a carryover from TAC Day. It got me thinking. I had the guy from Viridian Green Lasers on. Just kind of wanted to toss it out there for people that may be considering laser optics on a firearm. I don't know. I've got mixed emotions about those. I guess one thing for me is I've never really found one that's high enough quality that would hold a zero. Just to me, they've always been kind of a crutch, if you will, an expensive crutch that's not very dependable. So maybe this Viridian will change my mind. I'll get one of those and test it out. But all in all, I think of lasers as more of a training aid than I do a functional piece of gear. But what do y'all think?
Well, when I think of lasers, especially for a new shooter, I don't advise them. If you're just shooting by yourself, if you get somebody there helping you, it's a different story. But lasers on a handgun, when you're shooting, you end up chasing the laser. And that's not a good thing. You need to get your fundamentals down, at least for a new shooter.
I personally don't like them. Like you said, they're expensive, and I think people depend on them too much, and they don't actually learn the fundamentals of shooting before using them, and then when they need to shoot, they can't.
Well, there is a good place for them if you cannot get a sight picture, and that's a good place for a laser.
Yeah, like the only place I can see lasers being useful is an infrared laser if you're using night vision, because there's really no other way you can get. You can use the sights on like your rifle.
At the same point, though, you can't get a sight picture if you exactly be shooting.
Well, if you're using
Yeah,
night vision,
if you can see your
A little different story.
yeah, just you're in an awkward position. You can't see your sights, but you can see your target. You can see the laser on your target.
No, I got you. But I mean, at the same time, you can get tritium sights or in any kind of glow in the dark sight for a hell of a lot cheaper, and it's.
Well, I'm saying when you can't get a sight picture just because of the angle that it could be daylight.
Right.
You just can't get that angle where you can actually
No, I got
see
you
the
on that.
sights correctly.
Yeah, I don't for like a nightstand gun. Maybe not a bad idea, but I don't think I'd ever have one on a carry setup.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, maybe a home defense weapon, that would be, one application that I might get behind. But I'm gonna disagree with the whole new shooter thing, because honestly, I think lasers for a new shooter would help. Like I said, as a training tool, help to show. Just how much they're moving on the trigger, to show how much they're moving that laser, and to show them, and it also kind of gives them a little bit of confidence to know that where they put that laser, the projectile will follow if they use good fundamentals, good.
Yeah, I'm saying you got to develop your fundamentals. I said that.
That's
what
I
I'm
mean.
getting at is
I think lasers will help to develop those fundamentals. I don't think you're going to chase a laser.
I've seen this on the range too many times, especially with new shooters, is they're chasing the laser.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of times at the range people using them and still not hitting the target, and the target's 5 feet away from them. So I don't know if they're trying to look cool with them or what, but they obviously can't hit with the iron sights, so I don't know.
And that's one thing I've always had an issue with is just the adjustments on most lasers. For me, have been primitive at best. I mean, they don't seem like they're really an accurate adjustment. You know, the screws are always chintzy. The focal lens is always. I mean, you could move it with your freaking finger, even after you have the set screws in. So, I mean, while you might be able to get on an 8-inch plate with it, and I guess if you're talking combat accuracy, that's one thing. But you know, I've never found a laser where I could get pinpoint accuracy. And honestly, if I'm spending that much money on something, I want to know where I put my laser, that's where that bullet's going, not 6 or 8 inches to the left, right, up, or down.
I agree with you, Stone Guy. All the way around, basically.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I stay away from lasers.
The only thing I can think maybe though, see a spot for if you gotta give a gun to someone to defend themselves, you gotta guess in the house or something like that, and they're not really that confident with it, but it might give them at least something they can point the laser on and shoot kind of thing. Not the best idea, but kind of the only other spot I can really think to put it in.
Yeah, in a pinch.
Right.
Now, on the flip side of that, what do we think about weapon-mounted lights?
I want one bad.
Lights have their places. I personally don't like them on my carry gun.
Carry gun. Everything else, yes.
It's just a personal. I'd rather have a flashlight in my offhand. I can shoot with my strong hand very well one-handed, so I don't need to have my hand on there. I could understand some people saying that, and plus I'm under the... Some people call it illusion, I call it what I think is appropriate, the ability to actually hold the laser out away from my body, or excuse me, the light away from my body, and be able to use it that way. And if you're in a dark situation and somebody's shooting at you, or you're in a home invasion situation where they'll shoot at the light, that's how I look at flashlights, at least for me. I don't like them on my firearm.
I also, kind of the same thing. Like I end up using a flashlight for so much other stuff. Like I usually carry a separate one anyways, and there's no sense in just adding extra bulk to the at least my carry gun. I like kind of again a nightstand gun probably, but my best choice is going to be a rifle or shotgun anyways, which would have one anyways.
Yeah, on a rifle or shotgun, definitely I can see a light on one of those. I'm just saying, not my handgun.
Right, or like a bedside handgun, but carry gun. Like I said, I've always got usually some kind of flashlight on me, and I use it for so much other stuff. I usually don't have one just on my gun anyways.
And I try to take a... I usually, if I think about it, I'll snap a light onto my bedside gun, at night. But, for the most part, I've kind of fallen into that whole, wives' tale of, if you put a light on the end of your firearm, then they've got something to shoot at. If they can see the light, they know where you are, so they're going to shoot at the light.
At the same time, if you know how to, just kind of direct it right, or if you got a good flashlight, that's almost enough of a stunning weapon.
Well, plus you don't want to aim your firearm at something you're not planning to destroy.
Well, and that's the other thing, honestly, that got me kind of kind of piqued my interest with this whole Viridian thing was with that oval light. I'd have to see it in person to see, what kind of spread and what kind of beam it's actually shooting. But the way he described it, it would be, you'd be able to point your gun, 5 feet to the left and still illuminate something to the right. So that would be cool if that's the, if that's the case with something like that.
All right, then I'll say it. And I'm a better shot than the guy that sees my light.
Usually you are.
That is true.
Because they're usually the guys that have shot a gun in the air like once.
Yeah, I'm not using the gun as a flashlight. I'm using it as a pointing device to aid in the shot if I'm pointing it at somebody to shoot. Because if it's out and it's pointing it somewhere, I think we're all familiar with the rules of firearms. They're, it's not to illuminate them and give them a couple chances to maybe not shoot me back. In theory.
What's the dumbest light idea I've ever heard? I missed it. Maybe if he's out there, hop in, or just type it in. But I wonder if he's thinking that the oval light is a bad idea, or if it was just the whole thing about pointing. People are going to shoot at the light. But
I don't know that. I mean, because depending, they see a light, they may divert anyways.
How about the notion of I'd like to have two hands on my firearm?
That too.
Versus single shooting, because I have to hold a light in another hand.
Right. Now it seems
That's
like
why I practice shooting one-handed.
Realistically, if you could have both hands free, or have the option of having another hand free without having to carry two things. You're already carrying your firearm. You don't want to have to carry a flashlight in your offhand. Or
Okay, so when was the last time you went to the range and shot one-handed with a flashlight in the other hand?
Oh, very rarely.
Anybody at that theory that everyone says that we need to be doing with flashlights?
Well, I go to the range, I always have my flashlight on me, so I have tried that, not with the flashlight on, of course, but with the flashlight in the other hand.
Well, on doesn't really matter, but
It's kind of pointless to have a flashlight on in broad daylight, but I have tried it before.
But are we looking at a difference between like home defense or carry? Because I think that most people, I think most people agree that for any kind of home defense gun or something like that, even a pistol, if it's on a bedside or something like that, or you can snap a light on it at night or something like that, most people would agree with that. Carry gun, that's where you get everyone kind of sees their differences.
That's a good point. If Robbie
did somehow the requirements change when you're in your house versus outside your house for identifying your target? In fact,
No.
there are more lights inside your house.
No.
Less chance you're going to be inside.
No.
Okay, so hold on. Now that Ralph's here, what were you talking about? The fact that
This I don't need a light. I have another handheld light on my. I don't need a light on my gun. It's unnecessary. They're going to see me with it. Tell me one time that show me a news article where a guy got shot because someone saw the light on his gun. You're talking like the sliver of a sliver, and that's why I'm not going to carry one, rather than being able to positively identify your target whenever 2/3 of encounters are at night.
Not that you need a light, but more whether you want to have one mounted or not. I'm an advocate of always having a light, but like I said, I'm thinking more the fact of having it mounted.
Well, you're not going to... They're two different things, though. Your handheld light is for searching for things where you're not going to point your gun at. Whenever you don't need to pull your gun out, they're not interchangeable. It's not one or the other. They should be used in conjunction with one another. You can't... If your hand is tied up defending yourself, you're not going to be able to index your backup light, your handheld light, and use your... You guys think of these like perfect scenarios where they're going to be 7 feet away, and you're going to draw and you search with the one hand and the gun, and that's not going to be the case. You're going to be fending off with one hand and whatever
Right.
else.
If you're fending off with one hand, are you going to be needing a flashlight to identify the person?
Is there only one person? Is that the only thing that's going to happen? I mean, is that the only scenario that you have to have one hand tied up that you are going to need a light? Wouldn't you want to have two hands on your gun whenever you need to make a precision shot? You have a hostage situation, your wife's behind somebody. Wouldn't you want to have both hands on your gun to make the best shot you can? Or do you want to rely on something that very few people practice, and that's shooting with one hand and holding the light with another?
No, you got a good point of that. I haven't thought of that.
Now, so where do you fall now that we get your? Where do you fall on the whole laser thing?
I don't really. I mean, I think they're a good training aid. I think that they're okay, but unfortunately, I think that too many people that train with them train to focus for them and train to focus on them. And while the green laser is the best option that you can have, especially for daylight, red lasers will wash out. And that split second that you're going to look for that laser before you break that shot and you don't see it, might be that split second of reaction time that you need. So I think it can be a training detriment unless you really, really train with it. If you start to rely on it, and then that one time you don't see it, and that's a half second that you need. So I personally don't carry them. But there are guys who have bad eyesight who train with them religiously and who buy good equipment like Viridian that I've shot with, and that they can shoot with them. But I personally, have had issues with picking them up and that delay, and that's not a delay that you want in a self-defense situation.
That's a great point. I mean, that's exactly what I said. I think for me anyway, it's always been more of a training aid, a kind of a fun novelty, if you will. But
Well, I mean, it has its points, especially on the carbine. Unconventional positions whenever you're shooting, lying down, where you can't get behind your sights. There's definitely a place for them. I just haven't found a way to integrate it into mine that I felt comfortable that I wouldn't be faster with irons in a self-defense situation.
Right, and that's the key. That's my key is I haven't found one that I felt comfortable with that I could depend on because, and I've bought cheap like NC Star lasers, and then I've gotten Crimson Trace and Laser Light lasers, and those are a couple $100, but yet I still haven't been able to have the confidence with them because they didn't hold zero, or the adjustment screws didn't, their windage didn't work, or I've just never been able to put my put my faith in any laser platform yet. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see this Viridian if how it performs and how it holds up if that's something I could start to really gain some confidence in.
They perform well. They're the best out there. I've shot them and beat them up. No question about that.
Is, when you're talking about an LCP with the pocket holster that the light activates automatically, talking about a 380 that, again, how far are you shooting your LCP accurately in the first place? I definitely think that on a gun like that, it definitely makes a difference. And again, I'm not relying on anything. I'm using it as always as a backup. I'm going for sights first. But again, if I can't get it past my hip, when I pull it out of my pocket, if I can't extend my arms, now you're talking about a powerful tool.
Valid point.
Or even also the aspect of offhand, even if some people, I haven't got a chance to train enough offhand, but I'm like completely, incapable of doing hardly anything offhand most of the time. So that's the other kind of nice aspect of it too. It gives you a little bit of a crutch for offhand use.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's one thing that competition shooting will teach you real quick when you go to uh, uh, qualifiers or classifiers, when you have to do strong hand, weak hand shooting. You know, that's something that I've always struggled with. Um, you know, even in qualifying was weak hand shooting. I'm just retarded with my left hand, and so. You know, in that application, a laser would definitely be a crutch worth having.
Especially if you need to use it for I don't know, shooting around a corner or something like that, in home defense or something like that. Kind of going maybe with a rifle or long, it's maybe a little bit easier to go offhand, but if I try to go offhand with a pistol, I'd be completely screwed.
The only, real benefit for like a law enforcement officer is his field of view. So he can hold his gun on someone and get on his radio and know and not have to be on his sights. You know what I'm saying? So
I understand.
he can get on his lapel mic and keep one hand on his gun and know that it's still where he left it without having to focus on his front sights.
I know here at least no police officer is allowed to have, in where I'm at, they're not allowed to have lasers on their guns for the reason that they've become too dependent on them. The only people who can have lasers are the SWAT team and the guys on horses. Because everybody's becoming too
That's the
dependent on lasers.
unfortunate thing that you guys will find if you train with these. Even if you don't, you're going to build this mental sight picture in your head. And until those things are right, you're subconsciously not going to fire because it's not ready. A lot of people are this way. So you're going to hesitate until that dot gets where you expect it to be. And if you train with it, then it's going to burn an image in your head. And whenever it comes down to that, that's where you're going to be looking or whatever. Unless you train without using a laser, and if that's what you're going to do, then why? You know what I mean? Then why have the laser? So, on a carbine, I think it's okay, but I don't see a lot of practical use, except for like a new shooter, or if you're trying to diagnose someone that's shooting improperly, like low left or something like that. You can put it out there, and as they're breaking the trigger or pulling it back, you'll see it breaking up. You'll see them pulling it down.
Exactly.
So it's good for diagnosing trigger control issues, but personally, it's not something I would use in a defense thing. So.
And I agree with the poor vision as an aid there.
Yeah, that's a good point for that too. I mean,
oh yeah, there's a lot of older guys I know that can't see sights, but they would be able to see that, and so, in lieu of having a proper sight picture, which they'll never get, now they're totally reliant on something that can fail compared to iron sights. Let's be honest. It's probably not as likely, than some of your cheaper stuff with the good stuff, but it still is something that can. So you just take that amount of risk in with it. But if
in our batteries always die.
There's a lot of things. It can get damaged.
Well, and I think when you said batteries die, but I think with a laser system, at least in all the platforms that I've had experience with, have always usually been like it didn't interfere with your normal iron sights. It's always been like a lower rail mounted or side mount, so it's not like a red dot that could potentially. I know guys that run red dots that don't have backup sights, or their red dot covers their iron sights. So in that case, yeah, if their battery goes dead, they have no sights. At least with a laser that's mounted under the slide or on the as integrated into the grip or something like that, your iron sights are still there.
Yep.
I don't know. Another point to make about having a gun mounted light just because it's mounted on your gun doesn't mean that you have to point it at people in order to illuminate something. This is where training comes in, and this is why I stress training, because if you take a training class doing this at night, they'll teach you how to light up the floor and light up a room without ever pointing your gun at anybody. And you can
Right,
still...
bounce the beam.
What's that?
Is it bouncing the beam?
Sure. So there's this whole idea of, oh, I got to point my gun at someone with my light on to use it. It's like, no, it's not. That's not the case at all. You can do a whole house search and never have to point your gun at someone.
I mean,
I agree.
In my case, it's more or less as I use, as far as carry setup, my flashlight gets used just for looking for crap or, random other stuff, opposed to having to take the gun out for stuff. Yeah, but
Well, it's just like using a daily carry knife and an emergency one. The daily one is the one that you're going to use all the time, and you don't pay attention to how much battery it has or how long it's going to last or anything like that for the most part. You just use it from day to day. Heck, you could have left it on by accident earlier in the day. But if you have a dedicated weapon light, that stuff doesn't happen. You're not using it for day-to-day tasks, and you're not going to run the risk of not having it when you need it. So it's well worth having a light on your carry gun.
So it sounds to me like you've had a pretty extensive experience with weapon-mounted lights. So, I mean, can you recommend any one in particular that you've tested and know will hold up?
Well, I mean, it depends on what we really want to talk about holding up here. Do we want to talk about holding up like you're going to kick indoors and you may have to smack someone in the face with it? Then you get an all-metal light only. I've broken 2 TLR3s on someone's face because they're plastic body and they snap right off. And you might think, well, that's not really going to happen. Maybe it will. Maybe multiple attackers, you might not get a shot because he's so close and he knocks your light off because it's a cheap light, and now you're not able to illuminate room to room to get your kid out from somewhere or to take a shot in that hostage scenario or whatever. So for serious duty use, Streamlight Surefire metal body lights. That said, I don't care. My concealed carry light is it's usually an X300, but I have a Crimson Trace light, and it's the same width as the gun. It doesn't add any more bulk to the gun. So it's just like carrying your normal gun. It's not the super brightest light in the world, but it'll definitely light up a room. It has a built-in DG switch for your middle finger to activate it. It's like $120. It's perfect for concealed carry. I carry it on my lighter concealed carry guns. So the Crimson Trace, it's called the Light Guard. I recommend those. The TLR1 and the X300 are the 3 that I would go with. I have a dozen lights, and those are the 3 that I would recommend the most. I'll tell you what, go clear your house in the total dark with a handheld light and open doors. Think about that. How are you going to open a door in the total darkness whenever you got both your hands full? How are you going to fend off an attacker whenever you have both your hands full? You're not. You're going to drop your light.
Right.
Or you're going to put it away when you need it. It's not good.
Right. That's why it makes sense to me. Like you said, at least for at home or something like that. At least mounted lights seem better for at least at home. Like I said, carry that's a little more, I guess, a little more decision making, but at least for me, anyways.
I mean, not really to me. You're talking about a little over $100 and something adds no more width or weight to your gun.
Or less TLR1s.
I don't have to open doors when I'm clearing my house. That's a good thing.
You don't have any doors in your house?
That I'm going to have to open to clear it? No.
What are you talking about?
That I'm going to have to open? I keep all my doors open.
Oh, so no one can run in and shut a door?
If they're in the frickin' bathrooms, that's about it.
You don't have a closet door that someone could barricade themselves in?
You have an attic?
Basement?
Basement, garage.
No door in the basement. Go to
Cork is
everything.
prepared for this.
You got some weird phobia against doors, Cork?
No,
Yes,
Cork
doors
is
in the.
so
I think there are doors they can close, but if they want to get in those rooms that have the doors, bathrooms,
Well,
they're going to stay in there until the police arrive. Because
realistically, we're splitting hairs because you know the point he was trying to make is the fact.
Yeah,
of the
I'm just
matter
saying
is-
that's not a
Always a
something
valid
to take
reason.
into consideration. It's a valid reason for other people, not for me.
Yeah.
You're so full of shit.
Well,
Really?
I don't know. It depends on how long it's been since Quark last ate.
All right, I gotta give Mike that one. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good one. No, seriously, I just got doors in my bathroom.
Dude, get away from the doors. Get away from the door idea. Do you have a couch that someone can hide behind? Do you? Jesus Christ, man! Someone could be hiding in your kitty litter box or behind your mound of
His cats aren't that big.
behind your mound of cat food or something. You might
What
want
kind
to
of
have.
weird cats are you breeding?
A couch somebody could get behind, they'd have to move it, and then I could tell it somebody had moved it. Yeah.
Oh,
All right,
okay, talk yourself.
That's against the wall.
let's just realize not everybody's house is like Cork's, and
Or let's say that
It's
he needs
a
something
person by
different.
person, house by house thing. Yes, I agree.
No, it's
a
not.
situation-
Darkness is darkness. If you want to talk yourself out of needing something, that's your problem. But the reality is, darkness is darkness. You need both hands available if you can. And whenever you tie both of them up with something, you're not as effective as you can be. The door is simply an idea. You may have to round up your cats or something, and you want to have both hands to do it, or one free one. You don't want to have to tie it up with a light in one hand and a gun in another. You can't fight. You can't fend someone off, push someone back, round up an innocent or whatever, move them out of the way.
Yeah, I already had the situation for home invasion down pat. If somebody breaks into my house, I'm
You're gonna piss
got
and
the
vomit on
perfect spot and my shotgun.
them? Ugh. All right, dude.
I'm serious.
Everything goes down exactly how you've imagined it, right?
Never does. But I'm not.
Why are you
I'm
going to
not
say
gonna
that you
leave my
know how
room.
it's going to go?
I'm not going to leave where I plan to be in. Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh, do you? So you always stay in your bedroom? You're never in the kitchen or in the shitter or nothing like that?
Yes, but then I have my handgun, and that's a different story.
So that's my point. You're not. You can't say this works for everything.
Yeah, but if I'm in the kitchen or the bathroom, then a lot of lights are turned on, so I won't need a flashlight.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about.
What if they kill your power before they break in your house?
Okay. Yeah.
Seriously, I mean,
no, it's happened. I mean,
Yes, but again, you're getting into the.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying to figure out what scenario Ralph was playing that needs a gun, a light, and he's trying to round up his cats.
No, but
I'm trying to think of how they could actually kill my power. They'd actually have to get a ladder and go up.
Holy shit. How about the power goes out in your neighborhood?
how about the fucking box that's outside or the lines that runs on the side of your house?
They don't actually. The lines don't run down the house.
Okay,
they
Cork,
actually
they
run
landed
inside
on your
the
roof in a
house.
helicopter and they're getting in. How do you do it?
Okay. How about the power is out in your neighborhood and you come home? Are you going to call the police to clear your house, or are you going to go in your house by yourself?
Then I'm going in the house by myself. Then
What if
I
you-
don't have a light on my carry gun anyway, so I'm going in there with a flashlight.
So now both your hands are occupied.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point. That's what he's saying. Which, I mean, common sense. If you can have one hand free to open doors or to push someone away or to, manipulate whatever you need to
Use the
while
phone,
still having a light.
call the police while having your light and your gun in one hand.
But
I'll
then
tell you,
conversely,
anyone who wants to defend this two-hand bullshit, tell me the last time you went out at night and shot with that scenario.
I completely agree with you, Drew.
I can't go out and shoot at night, otherwise I would.
Yeah, I know. The world's against you. So
No, I'm just serious. I would go out and try.
conversely,
you can't defend something you don't practice or do. So
So conversely, I have a light on my home defense firearm, but it's an AR-15.
Yeah, mine's a shotgun.
So I can't exactly use one-handed techniques. Well, I can hold the rifle one-handed just fine, but I can't actuate the light one-handed. Yeah, I can turn on and leave it on, but I can't access the momentary pad with just one hand.
So you're gonna go clear your house with an AR?
Yes.
It's pretty dumb.
Not really.
Really? Let's go back to opening doors, calling the police, rounding up whatever. How are you going to do that?
Now,
there's really no rounding up. It's not a terribly large house, and all the bedrooms are off the living room. So,
all right, but I think
I'm
we
only
understand.
really going to be opening one door.
Well, we understand what the principle behind this. I mean, this is we're splitting hairs here, but the fact of the matter is, now that brought up a good, obviously clearing with a rifle versus clearing with a handgun, two different animals. But no, I just wanted to clarify something, Ralph. Are you against the AR-15 for inside a home?
It's used for in-place defense. Long guns are for whenever you're barricading yourself in a room and you're not leaving that room. You don't have to be responsible to go around a corner or whatever. If you're going to leave that room, whether it's to check something out, round up whatever it is, or investigate something, you don't want both your hands tied up. And I mean, I carry a sling, but very few people do. I mean, so it becomes a liability at that point, especially in small houses. It's not a good idea.
Oh, that's cool. I was just making sure you didn't have anything against the actual round, because there's.
I think it's best. I think it's one of the best home defense rounds you can use.
Yeah, a lot of that's kind of a misnomer about that round. People are like, "Oh my God, a rifle round, that's gonna bust right through walls and kill your neighbor," and actually, that's one of the least penetrating.
Only applies to the lighter bullets. You know, like 55 grain and lighter. Doesn't apply to like M855 or.
Sure it does.
Oh, they're moving so fast that the 9mm has way more potential of over penetration than a 5.56.
I think that the steel core bullets, like the M855, would have greater retained kinetic energy after 2 layers of sheetrock.
I don't know. That's a good. That gives me a good idea for a video. I ought to do some comparisons on that. You know, like build a little mock-up wall with insulation and shit, and just.
It's already been done. In case anyone cares, it's called Box O Truth. If you Google Box O Truth, you can look at a bunch of different rounds and how they perform through common home stuff. So.
Oh yeah, what's it? Box O Truth?
Yeah, here I'll put it in here.
Yeah, I've watched some of the videos that they've done.
Damn it! Well, I still might do that. I need some ideas for I need some ideas for content.
Well, model your stuff after that. Here's my like big gripe lately, and that's this whole idea that like I can't find training. Training's not worth it. And keep buying gear when in reality you don't really know what gear you need and what works for you until you really test it out, and that's usually done through training. So you're really just pissing in the wind until you actually know. And you can watch whatever you want and you can read whatever you want, but until you spend a couple days and a couple thousand rounds with a real trainer, a real one, only then are you going to know, just like Chris went through in his one day with Jaeger, all the stuff he came back and was like, I need to get this, I need to get this. Now he isn't. I wish he would, but that's what you come back with. And then talk to me about what you need to get, but until then, you don't really know.
Well, I will give Good Guy with a Gun some credit, because at least he's buying some better gear and better firearms. So. I'll give him that much. What's up, Hosh?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I noticed the trend now. Nobody uses their face anymore when they do these chats. What's going on with that?
We're just all too ugly. We don't want to be seen.
Yeah,
I get yelled at for being naked on these chats too much.
Different
I
situation.
noticed everybody else had their, nobody else had their face up, so I just went ahead and clicked off the camera. I figured that out. I was like, heck,
Well,
I'm not gonna
One, I
my
don't have a
mug.
decent webcam. Two, the lighting in this room is disgusting. So until I get some whiter light bulbs, I don't want to use the webcam.
Yeah,
So I just see that goddamn demonic cat again all the time telling me things in my ear.
that is a freaky looking cat. But
Yeah.
bandwidth and anonymity are your friend.
If I drop off randomly, it's no offense to you guys. The wife's coming home.
By the way, what that cat is saying is, eat dog, feed me chicken.
Those could be the same things depending on what country you're coming from.
Oh, so Hosh, what's your take on lights and lasers on your firearms?
I am an advocate of nightstand handgun with a tactical light attached to said handgun and a flashlight to go along with said gun flashlight combo. I'm also a big advocate of not clearing your house if you're in your bedroom and you think somebody's in your house stealing shit. Unless you have kids that you got to get to, then of course all bets are off. I'll come through like a fucking bull if I have to get to those kids, but that's different.
Right, but even then you're not clearing. You're just focused on
Not clearing.
getting to that position.
Absolutely.
And if anyone's in your way, then that's a different story. But we're not
Right.
taking
Absolutely.
deep into that. But there is
Right.
times where you hear a bump in the night, you're not sure what it is, you may have to go investigate it, versus someone just straight kicking in your door and you do know what's going on. So there are definitely scenarios in which, you may find yourself creeping around your house trying to figure out if, something just fell in the basement or someone kicked in the door.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I mean, there have been plenty of situations where my wife will hit me awake at night, and normally I'm the one that wakes up if there's a noise. But so say she wakes me up, she heard a noise, I will get my handgun with the light and I will go quote unquote investigate. But if someone was really breaking into your house, I don't think it would be like ninjas and shit. There'd be noise all over the place. Like they don't know the lay of your house. They're gonna trip over the baby walker. They're gonna step on Legos. Who knows? Like there's gonna be noise. It's not gonna be this like stealth insurgent action on your house. So largely, I have the gun largely in case something really unexpected were to happen. But most of the time, if something is really bad versus a possum that's tearing up the backyard, right? There's a big
my
difference.
cat's knocked over the food dish.
Right, and that's happened in my house tons of times, and I still get kicked, and I get to go check it out and all that stuff. I mean, no question, but you know what I mean. I think we all know that, right?
We'll do it sometime.
So in that situation, do you grab just your handgun with the light, or do you grab the handgun with the light and a flashlight?
I grab the handgun with the light, and that's it.
Okay.
So, and this may sound really, I don't know if this sounds dumb to anybody who's done training in any direction or other, but a lot of the reason why I have the flashlight isn't for clearing anything. If you had somebody that, I mean, this is the really asinine percentage of statistics here, but if you had somebody that was really hell-bent on getting into your bedroom and they didn't know what they were dealing with, they're kicking down the door, I turn that flashlight on and I lay it on its side and I point it towards the door, well away from wherever my wife, or my child is at. And the flashlight on the gun largely remains off. And if I have to shoot, I shoot based off the illumination that's cast by that flashlight. It has nothing to do near me or anyone around me.
Sure, you're using that other flashlight as a decoy, in a sense.
Basically, yes. That is. I keep a really, really bright flashlight on my nightstand that I use a lot, but it is for that explicit purpose that if somebody were to try and... I mean, if you want to break in my house and steal all my computers and all my TVs, that's fine. Go ahead and steal it all and leave me and my kids and my family alone. But if you're coming into the bedroom, then, you know, there's plenty of time for me to both grab the pistol, turn the light on, face it towards the door, and get away from that light source.
Yeah, that's when you pay all that insurance premium, you might as well use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's nothing, right? It's nothing. It's a flashlight. You already have it. You might as well deploy it in a different way.
I got a side note. Back to the whole defending your bedroom situation. Does anyone ever train keeping your pistol trained on a single location for 10 minutes without break?
No.
Because think about it. You hear the noise. You're going to defend your bedroom. What are you doing? You're focused on the door. Gun is at the ready. You're focused. How long do you have to stay there? It's not easy.
No, yeah, and I mean it's kind of funny. You're almost at like sniper training, right? That's what you're basically saying. I try not to breathe, and I try and maintain my. I mean, largely, I'd like to think that if somebody is trying to break in your house, hopefully the wife's backing me up. She's already on the phone. I've got the gun. If she's not already going towards the safe, which is what we worked out, that she gets her gun or, you know, sets me up with something else, that's a whole nother thing. That's like layers deep that you most likely never even have to get to. But, yeah, I mean, do you really think 10 minutes that most altercations would get to that? That's the
average.
They cut your phone line. They cut your phone line. They cut your power. They're now rummaging around your house, and they decided not to breach the bedroom because they think that they can just rob the house.
What Bond villain did you piss off that went around and cut off your power and your network? Like what?
Most house break-ins, though, the burglar, you know, they're in there and out of there within 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're dealing with people that are methed out of their head and they want their next fix. You're not dealing with like, professional cat burglar with a handlebar mustache. You're not dealing with.
You guys got to get away from most and the majority of the time and things like that.
All right. I know doozies.
So I should always carry 500 rounds of ammo on me at all times because you know percentage.
So let me go back. Let me go back a step. Tack Daddy, I didn't mean to offend you by that. If I did, I'm sorry. You're right in that there's no reason that you can't be equipped for that situation. I mean, there's no reason why me shining a flashlight at the door and me being offside of that would have anything positive or negative against somebody cutting the lines and the power and the network. I mean, they could do all that. But if they try to get through that door, I'm going to fucking blast them. I mean, that's the point. Or the side window or wherever they're coming in from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not clearing is what I'm saying. I'm not going to go like, okay, guys, let's game on. Bringing the fight to you. That will not be happening.
Yeah, I believe if you have every right to use your voice in that situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
and believe it or not, I think that the voice actually speaks more than the gun in certain situations. If you say I'm gonna blow you away, I think largely people get the point.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, that's kind of a good transition to kind of another topic, but something we've touched on before. But how do you guys, or what do you guys think about the option of using lethal force to defend property versus defend an actual life-threatening situation? Because I know there are some states, such as Texas, that gives you the ability to use lethal force to defend property.
You're in my home and you're talking about that property, I assume that you're going to be using force against me or my family. So there is no, I don't give a shit that there's a property or a break-in difference.
If you're in the house.
No. Here's the scenario. You hear rummaging, you wake up, you go outside, and the guy's walking out your front door with your TV. Are you going to shoot him?
No.
No.
He's in your house. You have the legal right to.
So okay, let me throw this out there. Let me throw this out there. While you may, so there's that whole God, and you know what? It sucks because it all comes down to us like living in a society with people like next door to us and people around us, right? We have this loose organization of of what we think is right and wrong. And if somebody comes and steals your shit, like, okay, fine, they stole your shit. But if you shoot them and you kill them, while you may be straight in the eyes of the criminal law system, you're not straight in the eyes of the civil law system, which is your TV worth the tens of thousands, possibly $100,000 or more that you'd have to spend to defend yourself against shooting someone that stole your TV. Totally different scenarios, totally different situations.
Well, that also too depends on what state you live in. If they're in your house, you've got the castle doctrine here in Wisconsin, which there is no, once you are cleared of the shooting, you are cleared. There is no civil case that can be taken against you for that.
Right, but okay, so I don't know about other states.
Then let's go to just a moral issue. If you take the legal side out of it,
night, dude. You want to shoot someone over a VCR?
Hell no. I'm not saying that I do. I'm just saying that there is protection in my case. I'm not taking.
Well, okay, so let's clarify.
Yeah, if they're walking out of my house with a TV, let them. That's.
If somebody is.
What if they're walking out with a rifle in each hand?
That's a really good question.
Yep.
Oh.
I think you should. I mean, you don't know what they're going to do with those guns. They could go out and kill 20 people with those guns.
They're going to take them out.
Okay, so if you gave me the situation, and California has a castle doctrine, so if you gave me the situation that I came around the corner and I have very little time to process what's going on, but I saw somebody going in a direction that is possibly out my door, and they had two of my guns. I don't know how they'd get them because they're all in my safe in the bedroom, I didn't say that. They're somewhere else. That I then shot them. I don't know. Now I might, because you don't know. I mean, you don't know that they're going to stop, turn around, and aim and fire at you.
But
you don't know what they've done to your guns.
Did he level that gun at you?
Doesn't matter.
Was your life in danger at that moment?
Wait, but hold on. But
what about the open carry?
But if that was... Okay, well, you're not letting me talk, dude. Okay, so hold on. So you don't say the same thing to cops when someone pulls and they're holding a gun and they're running in a direction. The cops are going to shoot at them.
We're not police.
No, but see, but the fact that you even draw the distinction of that, this person is in your house. You are the police, the king, the presider of that residence. So yes, you are all of those things combined into one when it is in your house. So yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're not a cop or whatever.
Someone doesn't put, outside, the police have a legal obligation to protect the public, and they have to pursue that individual and subdue them. We don't. And someone in your house, in my opinion, unless he's posing a mortal threat to you and he's pointing that gun at you, I don't see that you have a moral reason to shoot him.
If he's scampering across my lawn and jumping a fence and getting away, okay, you're probably right. But if he's, who knows what he's doing, running through my house carrying two of my guns, and I don't know if they're loaded, if there's a bullet in the chamber, if the safety's off, I don't know anything what he's doing.
I'm going to kind of bring up a Spider-Man reference here. Peter Parker could have stopped the criminal that killed his uncle. But he didn't.
Yeah, but now you're getting into butterfly.
No, I understand that, but you got to look at how many lives could those guns take.
No. You're not future crime predictor.
How would you feel? Now, how would you feel? Morally, you felt great that you didn't kill him, but then the police come knocking at your door that, well, your guns were just used in.
It's not your fault.
In a shooting.
That's not something you can predict. You're not future crime predictor. We don't
say that. Future crime predictor.
No, but
all right. No, you're not. You're right. But actually, a person can reasonably assume if someone breaks into your house and steals guns, they're not going to go do something good with those guns.
We don't forget.
But at the same time, at the same time, I understand what you're saying. If you don't mind me saying, Dave, I understand what you're saying completely. I acknowledge that I am not at fault with something that someone does with guns that are mine that they stole from me. I totally acknowledge that. But in the particular situation of where there is someone running through my house at night, where I may not have complete lights on ability to understand what's going on, and they have guns, and you don't know if they're loaded or not. Hell, you might not even know if they're yours at that point. and you shoot that person, I have no issue with that. I have zero issue with that.
Good, Tech.
I was just saying that my guns are more valuable to me than my VCR, and I'd be just a little pissed.
That's
true. You still have a VCR?
No, that was the example used.
Well, yeah, he's only on Betamax. So,
yeah, I don't know that.
So really, his point there was, if you see the guy walking out of your house with your guns, he's not running through like towards your kid's room. He's walking out the front door. He's got 2 of your shotguns over his shoulder. You're gonna shoot him in the back?
Yeah, but what are you gonna? But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna say, "Hey, partner, turn around and let's do this square"? Like, I mean, it's your shit. Like, what are you gonna? Like, no, let's duel at the OK Corral. Give me back what's mine. I mean, that's not gonna happen either.
I can't shoot him in the back.
Nor are you obligated to give him that opportunity to shoot you for your own property.
Dude, it's still property. You're gonna shoot someone in the back for property?
It's yours, though. Like, so no one. I mean, the Constitution acknowledges that your property is yours, and no one should steal that from you. So whether or not,
do you know what they do for property crimes in other countries around the world?
Yeah, I mean, let's factor that in reality with every Muslim country ever, where someone tries to steal something and they mutilate you. Right? You get mutilated if and or not stoned to death.
Yeah. So, You're talking about
in the 40s and 50s. Here where I'm at, the police used to shoot somebody for stealing a car battery.
You're talking about police. You're talking about entities that are set to protect the public interest.
No. I was using the example of mob rule in that particular Muslim instance. But see, I think that's the problem. Is if you want to say the police take over where my stoop or my step of my house ends, fine, no disagreement. But if the shit's going down in my house, then that's different. And you can't claim that, well, no, the police are the only authority in your house. Well, that's bullshit. That's not American. That is not the American way. That is not at all. We should be the kings of our own domain. And they entered into our own domain without asking us or anything else and said, I'm going to take what's yours. Regardless of how much you spend for it, it's still yours. You are the king of your land, period, end. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying legally. I'm not saying that we don't have the legal right. I'm saying morally.
No, I was not coming from illegal. I was saying moral.
How do you know that he's not going back to put the rifles in his truck, take a quick hit of acid or whatever, and come back and try to rape your kids?
Because you're trying to predict the future, and you're trying to prevent the future based on something that you think is going to happen, and we have to deal with the reality of situations.
No, and I agree with you. I'm not trying to factor in the future at all. That is your property. Someone entered into your domain illegally. So they're already trespassing, right? This has nothing to do with whatever they pick up and try and walk out the door. That's just adding insult to injury. And then they have a gun, which is yours, which, hell, you might not even know it's yours or not. They just have it in their possession. They're holding it. You don't know if it's ready to fire. You don't know what it is. If you come around a corner and someone's holding a gun and they're in your house and you didn't invite them and you don't know who they are and they're holding a gun and you're telling me you're not going to shoot that individual, you're crazy. But you don't know. It's a dark. They don't bring spotlights and illuminate and then bring a disco ball and like bring a whole dance crew. Yeah, you don't know what the fuck's going on. They're dressed in black.
How do you know
you
it's
don't know where.
What if it's a broom?
What does it matter? It could be looked as a weapon. It's your house and you're defending your property. That's it.
Because if someone doesn't point a gun at me, I'm not going to shoot him.
But how do you know? It's dark. You don't know.
Because I positively identify with my light, just like we covered earlier, and I don't shoot on what I think is going to happen or what I might. I positively identify the situation before I make any snap judgments.
I know you're saying that. No, I know you're saying that, and I'll give you two things, and if you stick with your story, that's fine. That's your choice. I differ from you. That's fine. You illuminate somebody, and they're holding a large square briefcase-like device that looks like your DVD player or a laptop or whatever. You may consciously, in that 1/10 of a second or less, that is no threat to you, no big deal. But if you come around the corner and you spotlight illuminate someone, and you're talking about like a tactical light on your gun, you're going from 0 zero light into full bright illumination, deer in headlights, by the time your eyes even adjust to what's going on, your brain's already processing what you're taking in as information. And if you've got somebody that looks like they have something that resembles a gun, regardless of which way it's pointing, I have a feeling your muscle reaction is going to start shooting. That's my opinion. You may disagree. That's fine.
For a lot of untrained people, it may be, but I have put myself through training to the point that I will not. You
can't train for that, though.
Yeah,
I don't think you can train for that.
Sure, you can.
How?
You absolutely can.
How?
Yeah,
You're gonna ask. How? Okay, give me the scenario how you train for that.
Have you ever done varying degrees of force situations? Where,
No. Give me the actual scenario. Break it down.
Okay, you're put under a hood and under stress.
Right.
You've got music blaring. You're all sweaty. Your everything's going up, and the hood comes up. And there's a guy there, and he's asking for directions. And the next time the hood comes up, there's a guy there. He's got a gun on you. The next time the hood comes up, trust me, you can stress inoculate yourself to do a lot of things. And the point is, if you're inside, unless someone's leveling a gun and posing a threat at me, all it has to take is a few degrees from the upward to the downward to make that difference. The police can make this decision all the time. The police look at people holding the guns up and don't shoot them until they level their gun at them. So it's not a skill that you can't acquire.
Okay, so good. I'm sorry. If you want to talk, you can continue. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm sorry if I did. So
no, it's okay.
that actually is a pretty cool training. If you were able to do that, that sounds like it'd be beneficial to you being able to differentiate targets in your house in that particular situation. Not taking away from that at all. But the clarification point towards the end there where you said cops are trained for this. Well, cops are also trained not to enter houses, not to clear houses necessarily, particularly where they know people will have weapons. I mean, look, it just happened in Southern California where the guy barricaded himself in the house. They didn't go clear the house. They didn't break down. They waited for him to give up and come out. But that's not the point, though, is at the middle of the night when you wake up, and I understand you might have trained pillowcase over the head and you pull it off and somebody's looks like they have a gun towards leveled at you, whatever, and you did what you had to do. Okay, fine. In a training situation. But regardless, they've entered into your property. They're not there for anything good. There's nothing there. They didn't come in there to tell you the good word about the Lord. They're not spreading the Bible to you. They're not giving you a Bible. That was not why they're there. They're doing something wrong. They're already forcibly entered. And if they have a gun, whichever way they're running, turning, tilting, flipping, whatever, pirouetting, it doesn't matter. They have it. You don't know what they're capable of. You're at least going to draw and point at them.
I was just starting to say that. I mean, are you going to pull the trigger and shoot them, or are you at least, flash a light in the face and stick a barrel in their face?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with identifying the scenario and seeing what's going on. I just don't think. Dude,
I don't think the first thing you want to do is shoot the person. Like, I mean.
No one said first thing. No one said first thing. They said you'd illuminate the person, and if you drew some kind of understanding of what they had, you still have to factor in. Go ahead.
Could they kill you? What if they had a baseball bat? What if they had a stick? What if they could all kill you just as easily with those types of things as well. So the point is, what if he's walking out with a pull cue? He could turn around and kill you with it, so you're going to shoot him in the back for it? No, it's whenever he poses a lethal threat. Whenever he levels that gun, whenever he turns around and starts to take a swing at you with that bat or whatever it is.
I'm going to make the
rules of engagement don't change inside the house, in my opinion.
Oh no, I actually think that they increase inside of the house. Your rules of engagement. If you come around the corner and someone has a weapon, any weapon, and you are not leveling at that person with the intent to kill them completely or incapacitate them immediately, and then with the intent like millimeters away from pulling that trigger, then you're largely going to become a victim. And I'll tell you, because I've seen and. At 20 feet, I've made this argument, at 20 feet indoors, a knife is just as deadly as a gun. And I've seen training situations that are almost 100% in the favor of the knife when you've got the leg up on somebody. Because understand, they have the leg up on you. They're already acclimated to the dark. They're doing whatever they're doing. You're coming around the corner and illuminating them. How many times, okay, Tac Daddy mentioned holding a gun on somebody for 10 minutes. How many of you guys go in a dark room, completely dark, and then illuminate your tactical flashlight while trying to maintain a target and accurately see the front sight to be able to draw a line, and then turn it off, let your eyes adjust, turn it on again, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. That is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. So, I mean, there's so many variables in play that I'm not just going to be the guy that just holds the gun up and like, all right, you can take my guns and go. Bullshit. I'm going to be at the point on the hairy edge of unleashing hell upon that individual. Where's G-Webs? G-Webs is in the chat. He's got a lot to say, it seems like. Him and, who was the other guy? Antonio. Antonio, does Antonio ever hop on the chats?
He came in once, I think.
But these are all people that probably agree with me, so I'm not trying to sandbag here.
Damn.
Right, and actually, that Don Cooey, I hope I'm not assaulting your name, Don Cooey said, plus this conversation is oversimplified with the assumption of only one assailant, and if we factor in statistics, largely every in-home invasion when people know people are home is 3 people. So, so you draw a bead on somebody with a flashlight, they all know where you are now, you're looking at one guy and he's holding guns, right? So what do? Now you're in the situation of who knows how many motherfuckers are in your house. So are you just going to, like, all right, dude, go with God, get out of my house, like, while your other 2 buddies level their guns at you, right? That's, you know,
you're discounting things like natural funnels like stairwells and things like that where you prevent 3 guys from coming up the stairs at one time with one flashlight.
But at the same time, though, you gotta. If they're acclimated to the light and they've got you got a good flashlight on them, they're gonna be just as blind as you are, if not more.
Yeah, but they've got a big bright target to shoot at. So if I'm acclimated to darkness and I have a weapon and you're not necessarily aiming at me, but then somebody comes in and they unleash hellfire with light, you just aim at where the hellfire is coming from. They don't have a hard job of trying to hit you.
Yeah, but you ever been on the other side where, you know, if you ever been in pitch black, acclimated to light, and then had a really high beam light flash in your face and actually be able to see for 5 seconds?
But then that's factoring in that 1v1 OK Corral type of thing. You're talking about 2 dudes who might be off to the 90 degrees of you who just saw this bright light blast their buddy. So now half of the room's illuminated. You might be funky-eyed a little bit, but what do you care? You got 10 rounds in your magazine or more, and you just start dumping in the direction that the light came from. It's right, what do you care? You already broke in the house. You're willing to go that mile. I understand that given 1v1 situations, there's all kinds of things that you can do. But you can't count on that, nor do you have the information available at that split second to know for sure whether or not you're dealing with one or many. So this goes back to my old don't even try and clear the house thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right, G-Webs, you said you disagree with
I think I might have stepped in it. So wait, Hosh is saying that you don't want a light or that you do want a light?
I do want a light. No question. Light all the time.
But I don't like that idea that just because you turn a light on, you're somehow giving your position away to the bad guy and you're at a disadvantage. I don't agree with that part.
Well, you don't know is my point. You don't know how many people necessarily are in your house.
Well, I do know that if you go out at night and shoot and then you put a light out on their target and try to shoot the light, it's all but impossible. So I recommend anybody who hasn't done that try doing that because it's in the movies where if you turn a light on, you've just given away your position. In theory, that sounds cool, but you don't just immediately gain the ability to hit without aiming just because there's a light on in a dark area.
Well, no, and I'm not saying that you're going to do anything accurately at that point, but if you come around the corner being the light bearer, the homeowner, and you shine your light on an individual, and you have 2 individuals 90 degrees of you that may not be completely blinded by the light you just illuminated their buddies with. They're not necessarily have to draw a dead bead on you. They're just going to start shooting indiscriminately in the area. They don't fucking know.
I don't know about that either.
The light's not going to make a difference there anyway. If they're going to shoot indiscriminately, they're going to shoot at the shadow just the same as you see them. If you can identify them,
that doesn't happen, though. I mean, I guess that it happens in movies all the time for sure, but in real life, do we get a lot of reports of guys just emptying mags during a home invasion or a home robbery, burglary?
Well, I mean, you see, look at the armed citizen articles, right, that we all get in the NRA magazine. What, maybe 5-10% of the individuals that get into altercations with multiple assailants generally get some kind of injuries themselves.
Okay, okay.
And,
well, that's
and
my
I'd
research that I've
argue,
done.
and I'd argue that the individuals that live are the only ones that get put in the NRA armed citizen article base. Right? Because why would they say, and 3 assailants broke in and killed the homeowner? Everybody carry a gun, right? I mean, that happens. That legitimately happens.
Doesn't happen that often, but let's say...
No, doesn't. You're right, doesn't. But I don't think that we're kind of beyond the realm of statistical probability at this point. We're well into the depths at this point.
Okay, so I don't understand what the two positions are of the debate then. Having a light, or is it how you use the light?
It actually didn't have anything to do with the light. So going back to the original question was, so I think Tack Daddy brought it up, so if I butcher it, Tack Daddy, correct me. But the argument was, what if you come around the corner or you're doing something, you heard a noise, and you don't know that it's necessarily people, but you come around the corner and that person in your house has a gun. Whether that gun is your gun that they are stealing from you or just a weapon of some kind, what do you do? If they're beelining it out the door to get away necessarily.
Yeah, first it was just any personal property, and then we put a caveat of they were taking a firearm out with them. So
any personal property is, I'm down for lethal force, but I guess I'm different than a lot of people on that one.
What if it's one of your
100% with you, Webbs.
If it's one of your guns, it's still personal property and lethal force for sure.
Wait. So don't use lethal force if they have one of your guns?
No, you got me the other way. I am pro lethal force for any property, including firearms.
Got it.
See, I'm for certain property. Like if they're taking a TV or something, that's fine. That's replaceable. But if they're taking a gun, that gun could be, my grandfather's or something. And I'm not, gonna.
Well,
it's someone's life.
That's something sentimental.
What are you talking about?
Like,
because it's Daddy's gun, I get to kill him, and if it's just another gun, then he's good to go.
If you don't care enough about society that you're going to go in and take other people's property, then you're not.
Are we talking about what is personally rationable, or are we talking about what we think is legally defensible?
Well, that's going to be two different things depending on the area and the local laws.
I know that for the most part, you can't use lethal force to protect property, except, there are some states that you can, and then there are other states that say that you can, for example, use lethal force to prevent somebody from, or to stop somebody who is in the process of committing a felony, and stealing firearms is most likely committing a felony. So you can put it that way. But personally, I'm not going to shoot someone in the back. If they turn around, point that gun at me, then yeah, all bets are off. But
that would be a hard thing to.
It sounds neat and everything, and if you had some sort of way to wave magic wands around, I can understand that kind of position. But then, what stops someone from raping you and then turning around, and then stealing a bunch of stuff and then turning around, and then figuring out how to rob you by turning around the whole time?
No, but legally speaking, once they've turned around, they're not posing a threat to you. You'd have a hard time defending it.
Doesn't matter. That's only in certain states. No, only in certain states. In Texas, you can shoot for property no matter what. And I believe that fosters a society where people have to basically be willing to lay down a lot more than just some time if they want to go steal from other people.
So even in the back, even if you shot him in the back, you think you'd be legal?
Yes, I don't think a homeowner or anyone defending their own life, property, or just their family or whatever they perceive. I don't think that person needs to become a lawyer and immediately figure out a whole bunch of variables. I think it should be on the bad. It shouldn't be on the bad guy to come into a situation that they create with all the advantage. It should be all the advantage to the homeowner who was minding their own business and had all the rights in the world to decide, to assume that their property is theirs. If somebody comes in and steals up to $300 worth of stuff, and you have to do the calculation, and if you did it wrong by $25, now you're the criminal instead of the other guy. No, I don't like the idea that just because it's property that we're supposed to turn the other way. And well, you can't do things in society that are wrong to a point, but other things you can do in society are okay. No, if you're going to decide to be a criminal, then take all the responsibility of your life at risk that comes with being a criminal. In my mind.
Good point.
Yep, I agree.
Definitely valid point.
It would make it a lot more like the Old West, but then I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing necessarily all the time.
Well, is every scenario? I mean, you've never had someone who's maybe mentally deranged, like mentally challenged, or not everything is a clear.
Yeah,
in my
but
opinion.
You can't
All right, but how are you going to determine if someone's mentally challenged if they
Right.
break into your house at 3 a.m?
Right.
No, I'm not saying don't shoot. Make a decision based on an IQ test. My point is in my opinion and in my view, not everything is as clear cut as that, and in my morals, I'm not gonna.
You're not forced to, though. I'd like to live in a world where you have the choice and you're not persecuted for being groggy and making a mistake when someone else forces you to make a mistake when you're groggy, as opposed to, oh, well, guess what? You woke up in the middle of the night, but you didn't think about 168 pages of state law when you decided that, under your groggy state, you took a shot at a guy who you thought was raping you, but it turns out he was just breaking in to tuck you in.
And that could be the same reasoning we use. Well, the guy, it was 3 a.m, the guy thought it was his house, he was drunk, kicked in the door, and came in. Well, how do I know he's drunk? I'm not having a conversation with him, so unless there's you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference if someone's drunk at 3 a.m. or not, when they're just breaking into your house.
That's too obvious an example, though. What if they break into your house to steal the teacup that was supposed to be their mom's, but the bitch wouldn't give it back to him, and his mom just died, and it's not her house because he's drunk, and he was only grabbing a teacup. But how does your kid's trauma, any less?
And how do you know that's what he's coming in to do?
Well, exactly. You don't know.
You think smoking someone in front of your kids is going to be any easier?
No, but you don't bring the kids out when you're going to shoot somebody. You don't go, hey, kids, gather around. Nobody does that.
Look at this poor son of a bitch. Picked the wrong house to find a teacup in.
Yeah, all right, kids, everybody grab a gun. We're legally obligated to shoot this guy.
But
it's not a firing squad. I mean,
but
all
the
right,
principle.
Kids, out. 2 of you get blanks, the rest of you get real shot. Let's end this fucker. So nobody actually.
The reality of it is, what's easier for your kids to live with? Seeing someone get shot in front of them, or seeing their father or mother get shot because you decided to wait and not shoot.
Exactly.
You're putting words in Ralph's mouth, because in that scenario, a guy was stealing a teacup. So what's worse, shooting a guy, or what's worse, seeing a guy steal your teacup?
Mad Hatter's a fucked up dude. I'd put him down.
Well, the principle that G. Webb's had was still sound, because I think we could all get behind the fact that we shouldn't, as homeowners and concealed carriers, the law should be on our side, especially when we're put in a situation to make a judgment call.
And that's what Stand Your Ground does. I mean, it is on our side for the most part. If somebody's in there stealing that radio that they could have bought for $5, and you have to take action because they're in your house and you don't know all these facts, you're really not going to. It is on our side. We're discussing.
Right.
Let me throw something out here. So largely, when somebody's convicted of, let's say, a felony, they lose a lot of their individual personal rights as an individual. I would argue that when someone is breaking into your house, they lose all of their social rights as it comes to how to respect them as a individual human being.
Exactly.
Because they decided that you, the homeowner, is worthless as an individual, and they will take advantage of you. So they've already basically implied by their actions said that you deserve no respect as an individual, and I will give you no respect nor quarter, because you don't know what they're capable of at the point that they're entering into your home and doing whatever they're doing. So because of them entering into an agreement, if you will, you were not a party to it, but they entered into the agreement of breaking all the social bonds and mores that largely hold us together, regardless of there being laws or government, that you basically say, hey, guy, look, you've lost all credibility as a human being at this particular point. Whether I show mercy upon you, that would be my prerogative, not you as a human being, because largely you've lost all of that.
And I would only add that you said implies that I would say they have asserted that they're taking themselves out. They've asserted that on you. You didn't have a choice.
Well,
that's a better,
what about the situation where, and this could be, not only for a guest that you allow in your house, but even a burglar, or someone breaking in your house, if they get injured on your property, they have the ability to sue you. And I think that's ridiculous.
I think we all agree that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a little bit out there.
So, and that's kind of the same thing when you talk about defending your, making that judgment call or...
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you're talking about, the age-old story of guy in the cat burglar in California fell through the skylight, landed on the knife block, and cut himself mortally in the kitchen, and nobody knew what was going on, and they called the paramedics, and the paramedics came, and then they carted off the homeowners because they assaulted. Well, okay, that's bullshit, but whatever anyone does, and they again assert themselves, that's a much better word, G-Webs. If they assert themselves with denigrating you as less than human by ignoring all of your inalienable rights and enter into your home to violate you, then it doesn't matter what they do to themselves, regardless of me being involved in that process, in hurting, maiming, wounding, or killing themselves, I think.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, like I say, it shouldn't be on the homeowner who is experiencing that to decide to be the judge and their own jury before they take action.
I don't know if
Guru is asking the wrong house. Yeah, I mean that kind of stuff sucks. But do you make it so that everyone's vulnerable, so that a drunk guy can be at more ease and he can just decide to be drunk, or do you blame that guy for getting drunk and pushing himself into the wrong house?
I'm not saying we should change the law. I'm just saying there's a moral taking someone's...
Well, the morals on that, though, I mean, I'm saying, is that guy decided to get drunk. That guy decided that even though he's got the wrong house, he's going to use force to try to get in. I mean, that guy made a bunch of poor decisions. Why is it your fault morally?
Maybe you just left, maybe it's not that late, and you left the door open. Man, my cousin lives in a condo.
Wait a minute.
No, the door unlocked.
What does the door, locked or not, have anything to do with people coming in?
Here, because it's not going to be an obvious break-in scenario.
It is an obvious break-in scenario. Just because you open the door does not allow anyone to walk into your house.
No, you're missing the point. Okay, if someone's kicking in your door...
I'm really big on doors.
Let's ask Cork. Cork doesn't like doors. Let's ask him.
No, hold on. Let him finish.
Why don't you let him finish?
The point is if your door's just unlocked, it's like 7:30 at night, okay? And a relative of mine lives in a row of condos. I can't tell you how many times the neighbors called him or called his wife and been like, hey, so-and-so's over here. He passed out. He thought it was his house again because the doors are right next to each other. All the entrances look the same.
We're with it.
Okay, he's not driving or anything like that. And, yeah, they know who he is and whatever else. My point is, just because a stranger is in my house doesn't mean I'm going to smoke him.
All right, but I'm just saying, if that little old lady shouldn't need to be in on the dynamic of who's drunk in the neighborhood and who can figure out where their own townhouse is when they get drunk. If that little old lady feels like herself is in danger in her home that she's paid and has legally, doesn't matter how she paid for it or if she's even paid for it. If she's quartered in that area that's hers and somebody is intruding on that, it's not up to her to decide, oh, this is the drunk or this is so-and-so.
No, I'm
And
not
that's
saying.
all I'm saying. That you're saying it's, you know, you've got a, you know, with it, we as, I think, individuals, I don't think you're suggesting laws. I know you're enough more than that, but you're saying that, you know, as gun owners, we need to be willing to take a second and decide. And I'm just saying, I understand that, but I don't think the laws should be that way. I don't think the society should be set up that way. I think that it should be very clear in society, and we fail this right now because the laws are so different. But if the laws were quite clear and kind of harsh, that if you're doing something wrong, it's never going to be the homeowner's fault for the most part. You know, it's not going to be their burden to prove why they're innocent. It's going to be the other guy's burden to prove that they did something out of line. But that would create an atmosphere where that guy isn't going to feel it's just okay to be drunk and go to the wrong house because it's okay the next day. I mean, I understand that it's not always with intent, but the intent doesn't have to be there for someone to feel scared, violated, or they don't even have to be scared or violated to have rights.
No, and I'm not saying that we should take away their rights, change the laws to accommodate, you know, the boyfriend sneaking into.
No, I know, and I'm just saying I don't think we need to feel bad as gun owners if once in a while some guy who's basically taken a little bit of an advantage socially, or whatever that would be called, you know, if once in a while an accident happens that way, that's, you know, going to be cleared up with time and people figuring out that, oh, we don't live in that world where you can just walk drunk into the wrong house, you know, and make the person feel bad that they defended themselves about it.
No, I'm really saying it to the point of, and I'm not judging anyone else in any way, but for the majority for a lot of people who say, well, if they're in my house, they're getting shot. And there's no other equivocal thought put about that. And I think that's a dangerous thing, not for, you got to sleep with yourself at night, you know, and
Sure.
if you accidentally smoke your daughter's boyfriend, then you got to live with that for the rest of your life. So not everything is, in my opinion, as clear-cut and black and white as if he's in my house, I'm going to kill him.
I hear you, but I guess I'm saying if what you're dooming us to is the moral dilemma of having done something that was outside the norms, outside scruples. Or all I'm saying is that's us. That's not a law. That's just us laying that trip on each other. If we don't complicate the world with putting that trip on each other, then it would be more of like, you know, in other words, you're backing out of your driveway and something horrible happens, because that's a vulnerable spot for a lot of people when they back out in a big hurry or whatever reason, you know, they back out and something horrible happens to something, right? I don't even have to get into it, but you're going to feel bad the rest of your life because an accident happened that technically you were a direct fault of yours, but you know, at some point you're going to go, oh well, you know, I guess, you know, things are going to happen and that was a horrible thing, but you're not going to, you know, spend your whole entire life making up for it. I think it's the same way. If we don't throw that burden on ourselves, then we don't have to feel that way.
But I think we owe it to ourselves to be vigilant, to identify our target and think through our scenarios as much as possible. We know kids coming back home, their parents didn't know that they had snuck out, their parents shoot them because they don't take that time to identify and think that maybe their kid might have snuck out, you know. Susie has always behaved, so they never think that's a possibility. I'm just trying
to some degree, you're yanking us though, because there's going to be an endless number of, you know, weird situations like that, and I can go, well, I'm a single dude, so I don't have to worry about, you know, a college kid, but that doesn't take me out of the world where my neighbors might have a visiting, you know, high school kid, college kid that came to the wrong house. So just because I'm not familiar with the situation doesn't mean that something can't be laid down around me so that I potentially could run into that situation, and that's where it's your side is a losing battle. We're always going to be susceptible to the what ifs. I'm just saying, if we don't burden ourselves with the what ifs and we say, look, you know, bad things are going to happen, and sometimes those bad things happen to good people by good people, then we're not saying, you know, we're not crippling. I fear that we're crippling ourselves, or worse, crippling that new shooter who goes, well, I do feel like I should be able to defend myself, even if my neighborhood isn't that scary. But now that I've heard all this, maybe I won't defend myself with a firearm. Maybe I'll just defend myself with a cell phone.
Or worse, I'll second guess the situation and be killed myself, and my whole family would be victimized, which is the worst situation. It's not as though
I don't want to say that Ralph wants a bunch of innocent victims, but I'm just saying he's setting it up so that there's a world of innocent victims.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, at some point you have to factor in the person has already entered into the idea that they will violate your base individual rights of privacy. Somebody has to consciously sit
Or at
down
least
and go,
act like they're gonna. They have to have
Right.
understood that that's a situation, and even if they're not willing to go through, it's even worse if they decide, well, I'm gonna front like I'm gonna, and then
But if
I'm not
somebody,
even
if
gonna bring
somebody,
a gun, but I'm gonna act like I have one. Well, that's
if somebody's broken into your house, right, they have violated your constitutional right to privacy for their own purpose, whatever it is. But somebody sat down and thought, yes, I am willing to forgo the values of society for my ability to come up right now. And then they go
And in
forward
that
and do
equation,
whatever they do.
the end of their life wasn't in that equation, or they probably
Right, at
wouldn't
no
have come
time.
up with that answer.
But why are we beholden to think about the end of their life in our equation? Because
you're
we're that
automatically-
responsible of people. No, it's because we are. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying, because you're assuming that they're there with harmful intent and it's not a mistake. I understand that it's a small percentage, and I don't want to change the laws to make it any harder for us to defend ourselves in the least. But this attitude that anyone who breaks this threshold is getting smoked, and if a guy walks out with a
No, we're not
shoot him
saying
in the back.
is getting, can be, and that's I think where we're getting into
Well, no,
agreement.
there's a lot of people in the external chat that are saying is. I don't.
Well, okay, but
I'll say is a lot more often than you will, for sure, but I think we're in the same situation where people will say, in order to conceal carry, that's great, that sounds like a great theory and everything, but you need to be trained. You can't just do that.
I mean, if you want
We're
to
in
go
that
down
area.
the path of, if you want to go down the path of, like, you come around the corner and there's a fabulous party going on with lights and everybody's stealing your shit, okay, yeah, you're probably not going to start blasting indiscriminately, okay, fine. But if you come around the corner and you can't exactly justify what is going on and you think someone might have a weapon, whether it is a teapot, a knife, a bat, a bludgeon, a gun, it doesn't matter, and you shoot that individual, your conscience should be 100% clean and clear. Now, if you, Dave, have larger training and you've gone through that process and you can, in that exact moment, discriminate between those situations and you decide to let that person leave with the teapot or the teacup, well, that's fine. But we can't look down on the individual that doesn't have your level of training, nor should we try and shame people into that level of training.
No. I've made a clear distinction. A guy's walking out with my television, walking out the front door.
Well, there's a big difference between television and gun and weapon.
And that's where we moved it the second time. You're referencing
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on, I haven't identified. I'm making a clear-cut scenario of when I'm not going to shoot someone in the back, personally.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't or whatever.
Sure.
That's your moral decision and right. And with the gun thing, I still am not going to shoot someone in the back for walking out with guns. That's me.
I think that yours in this particular situation is a highly choreographed scenario. I will say that.
I'm going to say you hit the wrong.
You can continue to believe what you believe, and that's fine. And I'm not going to try and disagree with you, but I think you've established a very particular scenario where someone is like dancing out of your front door with their back turned to you, and largely, I don't think most situations break down like that.
Dude, my buddy isn't.
I'm going to scold you for that decision, and I'm going to be on the other end of that one because I think you don't even have a right to that decision. But I'll wait for you to address that.
Go ahead.
I'm saying that my buddy lives in an apartment. He left, went to the store, didn't have his carry gun on him, came back. There was a guy he didn't even know. It broke in. He was sitting on his couch, like watching TV. He ended up wrestling with him, fighting him, knocking him out like 5 or 6 times before the cops showed up. Was that the right thing, or should he have shot him?
Shot him. Wait, okay, hold on.
He didn't have his gun with him, though.
Hold on.
He has guns in the house. He could have retrieved the gun
Shot him then.
and shot him.
Stop. Okay, stop. Hold on. Stop. Okay. So this is let me see if I break down what happened, because you're gonna have to correct me. You're saying your roommate or your friend walked into his house and some dude had his TV on with his legs up on the couch, and then they proceeded to wrestle 5 times. Was this not some kind of like gay arrangement that happened, or like what? How does
No,
how does that
he
even
knocked him out.
happen? Like, how does that? Why did he not immediately run for the gun?
Because he's right there. He's focused on what he's doing. Whenever you're turning away, he doesn't know if the guy has a gun. You're going to turn your back on someone and leave that scenario? No, you're going to address the threat.
No, but then that goes back to the argument earlier that you said you don't know if he has a teacup. So, or if he had a teacup, who cares? So what if he has a weapon? You're still going to run for your gun. If I think he has a force multiplier, I'm going to go get a force multiplier of my own as quickly as possible.
He's sitting there with a remote.
But no, you just made the argument that you don't know if he had a gun. So your friend immediately went game on and started wrestling.
Right, because you're not going to turn your back on someone that you're on. You have to address the threat first.
Don't turn your back on him. Run for your gun while not turning your back on him. Sidestep your way to Guntown. Like what? I mean, I don't even know what.
It's upstairs.
Who cares? Let him enjoy ESPN while you go get your gun. Like, I don't know why this is even like why he's not blocking the individual from getting his gun, right?
So he gets into a scuffle with him. He knocks him out, and he.
It sounds like ex-boyfriend or something, a girlfriend or something.
No, this is a random break-in.
Okay.
And it's
from meth head.
Show you the police.
No, a lot of times, like you were saying, once people have gone off the rails and they are not worried about other people's property, they're not always with the intent of selling it and becoming a rich man. They're just crazy weird, and he decided he needed to watch Three's Company, so he both broke in or something and watched TV there. People are kind of odd sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not saying he should have shot him. I'm saying he should have given him.
I'm saying he should have been shot
until the police got there. I'm not saying you break into my house, I'm just going to shoot you and ask questions later. But if I tell you get on the ground and you refuse to, and then your hands go somewhere I can't see them, you're getting shot. It's just how it is.
Well, okay, so here
now we're supposed to detain people? No.
I'll give you.
Doesn't say life, liberty, pursuit of happiness as long as you know how to detain people in your own home.
All my martial arts training and gun training has always told me one thing. Get a larger force multiplier than the individual you're up against, whatever the situation is, until the point that you can take over that situation. Whether that's taking over via unloading bullets into that individual, or protecting your life via stabbing them over and over, or using a bludgeon of some kind and hitting them over and over. You get the largest force multiplier that you know how to handle effectively, and you use it. And so if I came into my house and I had no weapon, and there's a dude hanging out, chilling on my TV, I'd be like, chill on, brother, and I'd walk around that individual whatever I can to go get whatever I could, and then deal with it. This would not be it's wrestling time. I would not wrestle the individual that came into my house.
Yeah, this isn't Monday Night Raw in the middle of the living room.
I don't have a folding chair by the door that I'm going to smack the individual with. I don't even know, like...
Well, you guys are talking.
This doesn't even make sense.
About a real situation, so.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, no, and I don't know how it makes. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get the choices that your friend made.
You're thinking in a very clear scenario, like I'm going to leave that guy on the couch, and I'm going to go upstairs into my bedroom on top of my safe.
So I don't know where are you saying, Ralph? Then I mean, if we're saying that we would try to do something to stop this guy from, being in our house, what are you suggesting? We close the door, call the police, and wait for them to arrive, or that we run around back, or what's your theory?
So this guy was clearly on drugs, clearly deranged, was not a full physical threat for my buddy, but he was non-compliant, non-violent, really. Wouldn't leave. Wouldn't know why he wouldn't leave. He's getting him up off the couch to get him out. The guy's trying to scrap with him. My buddy fights with him, knocks him out, and he's laying on the ground, and he's coming to, knocks him out again, comes to, knocks him out again. So should he have gone and gotten his gun, and then the next time that he got up, just shot him and been done with it, or?
Well, I didn't say that, but actually, so the voice of reason has chimed over my shoulder and said, "Wait a second, you walked in the door, and immediately you went game on and started wrestling." This is my wife, and she said, "I'd be like, my bad, wrong house, turn back around, walk outside, immediately call the cops, let them deal with it." That was my wife.
That's sane.
That's how I'd handle the situation, but
my
leave
bad,
it to a woman
house,
to be.
Sorry.
Wrong
house, my
you
bad.
have guns in there, right? Maybe guns laying around.
Got them in space, right? Or we're carrying them. So I understand that individual, your friend, left his carry gun. He might have left it out. I'm not going to assume, but so he had a gun out, not a safe full of guns with the door open, and that's different. But my bad. Walk back out. Oh, sorry, wrong house. Thought it was my buddy's. and then call the cops. Let them deal with it.
What if he's damaging your property? Don't you want to protect your property again? This is where I'm confused. Now we don't care about our property. Before we do, and we're willing to kill over
Hey,
it.
don't
now,
fucking you spend way too much time for you thinking because you're yanking us. We're suggesting that it shouldn't be morally unacceptable to protect property with lethal force, not required. We never said required. We always wanted the option, and the option for someone to have a clear conscience if they decide in the middle of the night and under, in perfect conditions to defend with lethal force their property as well as their being. So you can't throw at us that we're going to always resort to we're bloodthirsty looking to kill people, and if property is the trigger, now it's game on. Of course, we're not saying that.
why?
Unless you go back to your other scenario where you let a guy walk out with guns, I don't think you should have that. I think that should be that's not an option. That should not be an option. That's letting someone go away with something that can hurt someone. You should be morally, if not legally, obligated to be in control of that to the extent of lethal force against someone who's trying to
What if he steals your car? What if he steals your car?
Well, good question. That's a gray area, and we're probably getting into technically the same situation, but definitely with a firearm where we know that they're a force multiplier that can be concealed, especially when it's yours and you're seeing, you're observing someone taking it from your possession. I don't care what direction or what orientation they're in or how many or any of the other circumstances. That's something where game on. Literally in any class I've ever taken, the mere possession of something of a force multiplier doesn't have to even be a firearm. The mere possession of anything that gives them physical control is justification for lethal force, and especially with proximity. So that is something that not only are you perfectly good to go with lethal force, but in my mind, you're obligated to not just watch that go out into the world, especially when
That's where you give
created it.
That's where you give them the "Okay, Pilgrim, it's time for you and I to square off and draw steel."
Well, now this Donkey, or however you say his name, I'm gonna call him Donkey just because that's easier. And
That's
how you pronounce it.
That's what he said.
Oh, okay.
Donkey? Oh, cool. All right.
Two different scenarios: coming home during the day versus being awoken at night. So I think that's a pretty good qualifier.
Wait, hold on.
There.
Yeah,
you wake up at night or you come home during the day and the guy has your firearm, same situation, same result, lethal force, and that's the end of it.
But let me go back to Dave's scenario. So okay, here.
Sorry, baby agrees with me.
No, he wants my harmonica. He comes home, his friend doesn't have his gun, somebody's chilling on the couch. It may not actually be wise to run to where he left the gun, because who knows how many people's chilling in the bedroom having a whatever they're doing. You don't know. And then all of a sudden that dude's up behind you as you're going to get your gun. So, okay, I can see that from a logistics standpoint, but largely I'd have some kind of force multiplier, regardless of a gun.
Dude, he had his German Shepherd barking up a storm.
That's a good force multiplier. Let the German Shepherd go.
He didn't. No, he didn't. He left him in the cage. Because then he could potentially have two things to have to. He could potentially have two things to have to deal with. That was the one thing he said. He was opening up his door and his dog was going nuts. He thought it was kind of odd, but he didn't really think too much about it. So whenever he came in, he immediately looked to the left at his dog in his cage. It was barking, 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 and then he looked to his right, and that's where he saw the guy sitting on the couch, and that's whenever he addressed him and went hands-on with him. And while he's doing that, now if he were to let his dog out during that, well, now he has two things that he has to try to control and deal with. Now, maybe he could have let his dog out and left. That might have been a different story.
I'll just leave my dog out.
Let the dog out, go get your gun.
I just always leave my dogs out. That way I don't have any problems with people breaking in.
So you let the dogs out?
My dogs don't even have cages.
He's too young.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you bypass right over the top.
Yeah, but have you seen his dogs or the size?
Don't acknowledge the thing that...
No,
nobody
got a lab. She doesn't fit in my
Nobody
lap.
got that? He let the dogs out? Nobody got that?
We got it.
But...
Yeah, I got it. I just wanted to let it pass.
It's an old song.
Just nobody cares.
It is an old song.
Yeah, that song, what year did that come out? Let's see here.
I don't know, probably before you were born.
No,
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
older
Junior
than the
year,
song.
maybe.
The song came out in 2000 because I remember when it came out.
So I was like 2.
I was 6.
Stone Guy was 2 in 2000?
No,
How does that work?
Alright, you're not that
I was being funny.
Maybe 2 years sober.
So, still, I guess, we got into all kinds of scenarios there, but was this coming from the green laser thing, and if lasers are effective, or was that just a coincidence?
Oh, that was way after.
Well, it originally kind of originated with the idea of light.
Yeah, we were talking
I
lights
missed
and
that, Caddy.
lasers.
Someone's just chat.
That was good. Had the guy from Viridian on, and that was what initially spawned the conversation, was about lights and lasers, and then I really can't remember how we got into. I guess we transitioned to lights in the home. Whether you need a light in the home, and then Ralph jumped in, and then we started talking about shooting people in the house.
I mean, there's all different scenarios we can play out here, of when we will and when we won't shoot somebody. Like,
so Huck is saying in the chat, why not shoot? Why shoot some dude instead of just kicking his ass, gun or no gun, if you can just knock him out?
I was just going to say.
Well, because we don't have that option.
Yeah,
There's not that option. It's
that.
not like you can. Well, one, it's silly to think, even if you're, I don't know, somehow trained, that you're gonna know your adversary and how well they're trained. That's foolish. I don't know any good strategy maker that'll tell you to just go into an unknown opponent assuming that you can lay hands on them and win. But there's no justification for that. We, as non-sworn officers, as non-entities, non-government entities, as just individual United States citizens, we don't have the justification to just go around kicking people's butt. We don't. That would be turned into a fight, and they could sue us just as easy as we could sue them. There might be some differences when you talk about where the fight took place or what instigated it. For the most part, if you go into something and just start fighting with somebody, you might as well take your rights and put them on the curb and start fighting without rights. When you turn into a situation where your life is at risk, right, then that's when lethal force becomes an option. I think the discussion is about the property and whether or not that I don't want to call it blanket, but if that justification of the use of lethal force should extend out to property or not. And that's a tough debate, I suppose, for some people. But as far as just fighting, I don't think that's even an option. You're allowed to bring. You're allowed to. What do they say? Bring measured force to play. So if someone starts punching you in the face, in most states you're allowed to punch them in the face back, but you can't then grab a bat and start beating them in the spine with a bat because now you've escalated it.
Well, no, it depends. Wait, it depends. If you G-Webs are 6'4", 250 pounds, and you're kicking my ass, and I'm 5'5", I absolutely can pull a force multiplier out and defend myself. I'm sorry, if you were going to say that, I'm sorry. But the whole point is, why would you ever enter into an altercation where you are in grapple or striking range with an individual where you can control the situation with some kind of multiplier? No, there's no martial art I know of that recommends that in an unknown situation you close to that range and then engage. It's almost always in defense or some kind of surprise attack where you have the advantage. No one ever be like, all right, it's square off at dawn, let's do this, motherfucker. Like, nobody does that. I mean, like, that never happens anymore. Nor does anyone advocate for that. So it's always either a response to something that you got semi-blindsided by, which your fault, you shouldn't have been ready, or you should have been more prepared for that, or you're in some kind of positive scenario where you already have the advantage and you know going in that you're going to do that. You don't just blindly enter. This is not UFC, right? This is like your life. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yep. And on that note.
Well, I'm going to take Ralph's silence as the indication that we've won this debate.
Well, no, I'd like to hear from Stone Guy, actually. Stone Guy, tell me about the range multiplier when it comes to the what do they call that? The cone of death, or the funnel of getting closer to a potential altercation where you lose options to the point that your life is critically at threat. Right? That is a huge factor in law enforcement.
Oh, most definitely. But and keep in mind, we're as a I hate to say what's the shit? What's the word just escaped me? Civilian. You know, and I don't use the word meaning that law enforcement aren't civilians, but as a civilian, you have a lot more options, a lot more latitude with lethal force than law enforcement does. There are strict prerequisites and things that have to apply before you're able to justify lethal force as an officer versus an individual. So,
but for that reason specifically, you are much more conscious of the range in which you are engaging individuals, correct?
Oh, most
because
definitely.
You don't have those options.
Exactly, that's the whole point. You've got to be conscious of every decision, and situational awareness is a must.
And you always have different situations or resources as a cop too, because you can almost always call somebody if it's like, uh-oh, this seems like it might be too much for one person. I'll just make a phone call and get a dozen people here.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, and sometimes that's mandated. I mean, that's like you're required on. You know, if you got an individual that's known. You know, like when you run him and he's comes back with felony warrants, or he's comes back with, you know, has made threats against law enforcement in the past, or any situation, stolen vehicle, you're required to call in backup before you make contact, just for that reason, to go ahead and have those options in place. So, I mean, as an individual, civilian, I think it's a lot, you know, like I said, you have a lot more latitude. It's a lot easier to make that call, and in most cases and in most states, you're backed up by the law in a lot of situations. It'd be hard to prove that you weren't justified in using lethal force if someone's in your house, regardless if they have a weapon or not. If you can, you know, if you feel like your life was in danger, and that's the quantifier. There's, you know, typically you do have to show some sort of threat to your life, or fear for your life, or your safety of your family, and that sort of thing. So,
but at the same time, though, like, you know, my whole thing is, like, everyone always goes to, well, you're gonna shoot him. I mean, if my biggest thing is, you know, if, you know, pointing a gun, like in his situation Dave was talking about, you know, if you get to the gun and point them and get them to either, you know, see where they're at, or, you know, get them to leave, is that your first option, or is your first automatically option to freak out and shoot in your house? Do you try and, you know, either get them to, you know, either, you know, as, you know, someone mentioned something about earlier about detaining. I mean, if they're going to drop and, you know, volunteer to detain themselves, or, you know, stay in one spot or leave, you know, do you do that over shooting them?
I don't think you should be required to, and at least my position isn't that you're required to use lethal force. I'm defending the concept that it's immoral to use lethal force over something that isn't necessarily overwhelmingly obvious to be, putting your life in risk at the moment. I think that, like we said before, that if the guy decides to come into your house and do that, he's already taken himself out of the norm, And it shouldn't be the burden of the individual who's experiencing that, in real time with their property and their life in the line. It shouldn't be their job to decide how the rest of us are going to feel about the decision they're about to make. So I'm not saying that they need to open fire on some guy on the couch, but if they do, it shouldn't be. They shouldn't be morally. They shouldn't even make themselves feel bad morally over that situation that was pushed on them.
I agree with you on that part. I mean, it's like the whole thing. I know there's a chat about warning shots a whole time ago. It's like it's not exactly a good idea, but you shouldn't be, persecuted for making a split second decision that maybe wasn't the best, but it was a decision you made. You shouldn't exactly be persecuted for it.
Yeah.
But now let's bring it back to your grandma goes out, and of course she doesn't carry a firearm because she doesn't live in a country where she needs to, and she goes out and gets her hair done or whatever grandmas do, and comes home, and there's some asshole watching TV on her couch, and fill in however else you want that scenario to go. I'm not going to feel bad if that lady decides that.
I wouldn't either, but I mean, it's like it's
yeah. So why does a strong guy who isn't an old lady? Why is he all of a sudden the bad guy for not laying hands on some weird guy in his couch?
Some old lady broke in and sitting on his couch.
Oh, lady broke in, sits on my couch. I'd be even more scared.
Yeah.
Seriously. No, I mean, who knows what's going on there? So I refuse to submit that person who defends himself against the old lady is any more morally bad than the guy who defends himself against.
But I want to point out the dichotomy of this. So, Dave, largely we entertain the argument, and G-Webs gave you a good situation of where a grandmother comes home and there is someone that overpowers her sitting on the couch watching TV, and you then immediately gave G-Webs the what if the grandma was sitting on your couch? I mean, come on, dude. That is so statistically improbable.
No.
I will suggest that's probably Yankee's fault. He's hung out way too much with me.
Get stats out of this whole scenario. The point is, he brought up a disparity of force. He brought up a disparity of force as being the difference, so I flipped the disparity of force to the other side to see if it holds water the other way as well.
Well, no. But the straight up right guy answer would be answer his question and then pose your opposite corollary. Don't just go immediately to the devil's advocate position and then be like, what about that? Like you're answering a question with a question.
Maybe you misunderstood my position. I would totally defend Grandma for shooting the guy on the couch. I'm saying
I figure that.
You didn't say that. You immediately met that with the devil's advocate.
No,
I probably assumed it too.
Okay.
So that, to be clear, I'm saying that we as individuals may consider that there are certain scenarios that aren't as clear-cut and that we might want to take extra caution into when we use lethal force. That's all that I'm saying. I'm not saying it should be against the law, for the law, or anything else. If you in your mind morally say that anyone that enters my house illegally, whether they have bad intent or not, or whether they're disparity of force or not, I'm gonna defend myself and shoot them. I don't hold that against you at all, in the least. That is your choice. And I support that, for you to make that choice. I'm saying me personally.
So let me ask you this then. This is a straight up question. Would you rather the individual homeowner err on the side of killing the bad guy than err on the side of taking longer to process and potentially killing their own family or endangering their own life?
Yes, I really think that we need to take an extra step sometimes and try to really figure out that this is how this started, was lights on guns. And a lot of people don't feel that lights on guns are necessary. And I'm bringing up the point of we need to identify our targets as much as we can and not use a lethal force blanket in almost every scenario or whatever. Nor am I saying that you guys are espousing that as being your position either.
No, I agree with you on having a light. I think if you don't have a light, you're crazy.
But you're saying we should err on the side of waiting as long as possible until engaging.
No,
until
not
you know
always. I think he's
positively.
just saying we should have a light so that we can just take a minute and pause if we need to, with better information than if we didn't.
And for me
Oh yeah, no,
personally,
I think we agree. We agree there. No
for me
question.
personally, that guy on the couch, my first thought is get him out of my house. So if I can do that with my hands, if I believe I can do that with my hands, then maybe that's what I'm going to do. If I think that I'm going to have to do that with a gun, then maybe that's what I'm going to do.
See, we get to be agreeing, and then you have to go crazy off the reservation.
Yeah, that scares
I was
me,
with
dude.
you all the way up
That
to that.
super scares me. I mean, I think we're so. I mean, we can all say lights on guns, good. More information, better. No one would disagree from having more information. That's not a position of waiting until shooting at the last. That has nothing to do with that. That's just more information is good.
Yeah, we all
But
agree
then-
you can process that info pretty quick.
Right, entering into grapple range because you can,
No,
or
no,
you
no.
think you can. That's not good.
I'm not saying.
pretty sure he said he wants to get into grapple range because he has something to
That
prove.
was what you said, dude. That was what you said.
No, listen. The scenario I gave you was the guy wasn't able to get to his gun without putting himself in further danger. Therefore, his first option is to go hands-on. If he leaves that room and goes upstairs, he's lost visual of that situation.
Well, here's what I'm saying. He opened his door, so you had car keys. You wing your car keys in the direction opposite the dog. You ninja roll to the dog's cage and open it. As the bad guy has to deal with the dog, you grab your gun.
Wait, so you're not carrying the ninja smoke bombs that are all a part of the chat
Well, there's so many
panel,
just went to Circle
standard
K.
EDC.
You don't always bring your ninja sack when you go to get something.
Well, no, but I thought that was part of our ability to be on these chats, is that we had to have our ninja EDC at all times.
Maybe there is something to be said, though, for maybe not always a firearm, but I know people that have baseball bats next to the door or like behind the door, so when it's open you don't necessarily see the thing, or maybe on the doorknob, on the inside, so when you open it, it's not necessarily obvious. Maybe there's something to be said for stashing a few instruments around the home to help with a situation that might be crazy. I mean, I don't know how often a person's going to be laying on your couch, but I've definitely had situations where, like, that's not my dog. Why is this dog in my house? Like, things like that could be weird, that you could use a bat or a golf club or something for.
I honestly want to talk to Huck right now, because he just threw down something that, like, he says, I've taken a few punches while wearing a gun and fixed blade. I don't suggest it, but I know I can take a drunk dude and walk him out a door. PCP, not so much. It's like, holy shit, that's a bomb drop. Like,
You seem pretty surly to me. What exactly have you taken today? Okay, okay, drinking, no problem. Okay, marijuana, no problem. PCP? Oh no, I'm gonna leave.
I'll tap out on that. I'll shoot the motherfucker if he's got PCP. But drunk, no problem. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
Has anyone gotten into a fist fight with their gun on them and not pulled it?
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have.
I wouldn't be proud of it.
Wait,
I don't run
okay,
around
wait.
being proud of it like you are. Crazy.
Dave, walk me through it. How did this happen, and why?
One able-bodied male versus one able-bodied male.
No. Walk me through the situation. How did the fight start? What led up? Give me the
Ralph was
5-minute
watching
window
TV
into
on
the
a couch. Turns out this other bastard doesn't live in his house.
Turns out this guy was pissed that I was there. He's like, this ain't your TV or your house.
I'm there to pick up a girl that's at a bar. I just
Okay.
show up to pick her up. Her boyfriend's being abusive. Her boyfriend won't let me back to my vehicle. He's blocking me between me and my vehicle.
Okay, so
Throws a punch at me, and I have to defend myself.
were you into the girl?
No.
Okay.
Now this
All right.
sounds like, go get her because he's being a jerk.
Yeah, I'd be like, go hit her. Shit.
I've had to do that kind of stuff, but I don't bring a firearm with me.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Huh? How bad?
I don't like the idea of fighting with a gun because I would be afraid that in the wrassle they would find the gun and grab it and shoot
There we
it.
go, Huxon. Yeah.
Jesus.
All I was trying to say is that there's a difference between somebody who's freaking out on crack and coming at you and all agitated and shit, and some drunk guy who can barely stand up.
I wouldn't want any of those coming at me. I don't want anyone closing to grapple against me. If someone
I'd be
closes to
scared of a
grapple
drunk
against
guy
me,
who
it-
like gets what is that called? Like gets clarity real quick and then lands a punch.
I was walking past a local bar. I mean, in my small town that I lived in, there was little bars all the way down the main strip in town. And walking past one on Friday night, going from one friend's house to another, and a drunk ex-girlfriend's best friend, ex-best friend, whatever the hell, however that shit works, kind of started going off on me and yelling at me and swinging and kicking me in the shins and shit like that. And as she went down, she like hooked her hand on my knife, which is about a K-bar sized knife. And it essentially felt like she was pulling it, because as she went down, the sheath twisted and everything, and started going down with her. And I just fought her off and pinned her arms down and waited for her friends to come over. I'm not saying that everybody's going to fight. I'm not saying I'm some master martial artist. I'm not. I have very, very little legitimate martial arts training. Some, but very little. And it's just something that happens. I mean, people sucker punch people on the bus and all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, fights do happen in the world. There are crazy people out there, especially in large populaces. I mean, it happens.
Yes.
And there's not. I don't see the necessity. Certain people, yes, like somebody who's got disabilities or who has no fighting skills whatsoever, who knows they're just going to start taking punches to the face right away and not be able to defend themselves, be knocked out instantly, that kind of stuff. I mean, if you don't have any ability to defend yourself, but I mean, most people have been in fights and at least wrestled around with friends or something. So you either can control somebody and keep them off of you, or if you start grappling, that's a totally different thing. You know, rolling all around on the ground with somebody, that's the point where I see, you've gone beyond the point of lethal force. But a drunk guy trying to come out, I had a buddy who was in a bar, and this drunk guy started, like rubbing up on his girlfriend and trying to, dirty dance with her and so on. And he's like, hey, come on, dude, this is my wife. We're trying to, have fun, get out of here. Didn't even, push him away or say anything. He just kind of, him and his wife turned. And the guy just drunkenly, out of nowhere, on the side of his head, glanced off the side of his head. And he just dropped him. He just, socked him in the face, hit him right back with the same amount of, veracity or whatever, except for his punch connected. Dropped the guy, and that was the end of the fight. I mean, that kind of shit happens. It's not... I don't know. I just don't see the
wouldn't happen if we made alcohol illegal. When are we gonna have a war on alcohol?
I've also heard a bang downstairs. Walked downstairs, and there's a drunk redneck leaning up against my my stove. Turns out his best friend used to live in the house. The guy that died right before we moved into it. Best friend in the world, and this was his birthday, and he was hammered drunk. They used to hang out and get drunk and do their redneck shit at this house for 15, 20 years. And I had my pistol in my hand when I came down, and just talked to him, saw kind of got what he was doing, what state of mind he in. He was hammered drunk, and actually turned into a long, long friendship.
I think that's kind of the point Dave was making earlier. Just do you treat someone over an honest mistake?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I didn't even give him the chance. I didn't get anywhere close to him. If I hadn't had my gun on me, I'd have done the same thing. I'd have probably backed up to the broom closet and stuck my hand on one of the good broomsticks or something like that. But I just stayed back from him for a while, saw where he was. Eventually, I don't even think he saw my pistol. He was crying and, had his head down and kind of laying on my range.
Well, I'll answer it the ugly way, but yeah, if somebody does an honest mistake and they pay the ultimate price for it, guess what? You can make an honest mistake and think that there was a railing there and fall off a really high building. That doesn't stop gravity. So if I'd rather live in a society where the person isn't morally persecuted or persecuted just in a society for what turned out to be a mistake in a situation where they thought they were defending themselves or their property.
No,
I'd rather
absolutely.
live in that place than the place where little old ladies get raped once in a while because they just don't think it's right to have a firearm because it's just their property and it's just their body. They can always have an abortion. They can always, deal with the rape. They don't have to kill people for it. Fuck that. I wanted people to have the fear of death if they're going to screw with other people.
But it starts getting
Go ahead.
It starts getting real easy. It starts getting real easy for us to give the line of, well, I knew because I lived in this situation, or I've been through experiences like this, or I trained for this particular thing, so I know a little bit more than other people. It gets really easy for us to claim that, oh, because we have somehow better knowledge, that we somehow expect others to live like we do and the knowledge that we've acquired. We shouldn't, and nor should we expound that anyone lives that way. And so for that reason alone, if somebody walks out of their bedroom at night and someone is breaking into their house, and we don't Monday morning quarterback what they thought they saw, and they shot that individual and killed that individual, we should all go, bravo, that individual lost his rights the moment that he tried to take your stuff.
Well, I mean,
we
we don't have
then
to
tear it apart with,
well,
well, I'm better, I'm trained, I know that if I was trained, and if that individual was trained, then this wouldn't be a problem. Like, we can't do that, right? We can't do that.
No, not at all. And the scenarios I brought up were all specifically because I'm not very trained at all. I'm not claiming any martial, superiority over anybody. What I'm saying is that any other person, like even if it's a little meek housewife, should at least be like, stop, get the fuck out of my house, and before opening up on a guy.
Right.
And I'm not saying they should be persecuted, and I'm not saying they should be, but I mean, isn't that like one of the main things that people do is
no. I agree. I know what you're saying, but I don't think a little old lady, or I don't think anyone has to say stop before they get raped. I don't think they have to say get out before they tell somebody to get out of their house.
No, but I want to understand
their life.
I want to understand something. We seem to be making the argument that they are not obligated to do so. I want to understand, Huck, why do you think a woman or an elderly person needs to say stop or I'll shoot? Like, why? Why do we expect people to do that?
I mean, lots of people as much as it's not something I suggest to do, people all over the world rack their 12 gauge and scare off criminals.
No. I want to know.
Time.
Yeah, no, but you went to a shotgun thing. I'm saying specifically, you mentioned that you expect women or elderly to say, "Get the fuck out of my house." Why?
Or cock their revolver and say, "Get the fuck out of here."
But why? Why do you expect that?
Yeah, you don't have to be fair with the bad guy who's being bad. I mean, if you want to, great, but don't require them to.
But
I'm not requiring anybody to do it. I'm just saying that I feel that.
Well, no, but you just literally, the reason I brought it up is because you literally said something to the effect of a moment ago, like, but most people should say this, or people would say this.
You have the option to. I mean, there's no reason not to in my eyes. I mean, the reason I told the story about the old redneck guy.
There's a reason not to.
Turned
honestly.
into a really good guy, and I could have shot him if I hadn't warned him and said, "Who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing in my house?"
But
I hear you, and most people are going to. But it's
you're looking through the rear view, right?
You're looking through rose glasses, Hosh. That every scenario, your goal is to end the situation, not necessarily end someone.
Whoa! I'm the opposite of the rose-colored.
Yeah, I'm an expert. I watch a lot of
I'm the
Fox.
opposite. Huck had the rose-colored glasses on because he's looking in the rear view. He's saying, "Had I shot that guy?" That's not the point. That's not the point. Nor is that rose-colored glasses what I'm saying. I'm just asking. No, why do you feel that people are obligated? Not necessarily obligated, but why are you advocating that they should?
Yeah, that it's a good idea to. It's a strategically bad idea. No, it's strategically a horrible idea. Because if you're thinking about it just logically, that bad guy who came in, and then I know that you're going to immediately jump to what if it's not a bad guy. Let's think about the bad guy scenario though. There's a bad guy in your home.
No,
he's on 100. I am great, but if it's a bad guy and he's the one who's going to kill you, he's in there with a heightened sense of awareness. He knows what's going on. He's decided to break the law, bring a firearm in, and he's decided to put you down because he wants your stuff. Now you yell out, fill in the blank. He's the one who's on heightened alert, and he doesn't give a shit. Shots go out in that direction. So you just said, what's there to lose? Your life is what's to lose. Strategically, you're not going to find many instructors that encourage you to yell out some sort of a warning. It's the same way you don't use a warning shot. You don't use a warning exclamation for lots of reasons. But now if you want to look at it again just strategically, you're walking your dog in the evening because it's hot out during the day and your dog has to go potty, and now you are walking past a neighbor's house and you hear, something get exclaimed through the window, and then a shot gets fired. Now you're on the witness stand saying what you thought you heard. You don't know who's to blame or who's in the right there. You're just giving whatever you know as an expert, as a witness on what happened that evening. That is something that you've given the bad guy. You've taken advantage from you and given it to the bad guy. If that witness, who might even be on your side in real life, heard something inaccurately, what if they heard you say, "Fuck you, motherfucker," and you really said, "Get the fuck off of me, motherfucker"? I mean, there's strategically and tactically reasons not to yell an alert to someone who's already decided to break into your home and do damage to you or your stuff.
But not everyone that breaks in has that intent, and I think Huck's point may be that you, depending on the scenario, you may give them the option.
Do we worry about worst case scenario, or do we worry about best case? If it was a kitten out there and you yelled, you wouldn't get a response either, and that was best case. That's best case scenario. So I understand that you can second guess it with a bunch of what ifs, but if you're looking at situation like I need to live through this, do you go to the what if it's not a problem, or do you go to the what if it is the ultimate problem, and then which do you train for strategically and tactically?
Okay, so what about hands up while you have your sight beaded center mass, and if their hands go anywhere but up? I mean, is that unacceptable to you?
Honestly, if it's a situation where we're talking about theoretics, and someone is inside of the borders of your building, your home, whatever that be, your hotel room, your vehicle, your house, whatever. We know in Arizona where we are is our castle, and they're in there. I don't care what they're doing with their hands. They're a lethal threat, and they're going down. So I understand that that's not nice, and that's not clean, and that's not going to make a lot of people feel warm inside. But unfortunately, you're going to either live in a society where you, the victim, are the one who has to be the jury. The jury and the judge on whether or not that guy is doing bad, or you're always right as the victim. I want to live in the world where the victim is always right.
Yeah, and honestly, I understand the tactical disadvantage of it. I'm not arguing that whatsoever. I mean, I can cite a story where that exactly happened. The guy, what the fuck are you guys doing? The guy started shooting at him. I mean, that happens. I understand that. I'm just saying that it seems like there's so much room for error there, and I'm not a huge fan of it.
It's a horrible, horrible thing. But did you, the innocent homeowner who decided that I'm not going to take shit, it started all that? Or did the guy who decided to come into your home start all that? He asserted that situation on you.
Exactly.
Why do we have to then decide what's the polite way to deal with this situation that's been shoved on me? I think that we should I think we should start with the victim is always right, and then let's look at specifics. Not let's whittle down the specifics to figure out what is always right or wrong.
I don't know that anyone's saying that it's not right, that they wouldn't be in the right in order to do that. I think Huck, I know I am. It's just like if you get a stray dog in your yard. In my town, it's legal to shoot a stray dog in my yard, basically. But I'm going to tell them to get out. I'm going to tell them to go. If I think that I can, then I'm going to try to do that first. I don't think that you should be obligated to do that. I don't think everyone should do that. I'm saying me personally, and it sounds like Huck maybe, that if I think that there's a chance that I can get them to leave on their own accord, because my goal is to stop them doing what they're doing, then I'd like for it to end peacefully and not have a cleanup and a bunch of police at my door.
Yeah, you guys know that we're not out looking for killing people, and we're not out shooting stray dogs, right?
Yeah,
so
well,
I understand what you're trying to say, and you've got to jump to another extreme. But you're also inferring that we have some sort of a bloodthirst. What we're suggesting is, and we're using vocabulary here, we're not saying that it should be illegal. We don't think that you think it's illegal. We know that we all believe that the victim is in the right legally. But what keep bringing this up for is because you guys keep going, okay, yeah, we agree legally the victim should not feel obligated to worry about the bad guy. However, if you have the ability to stop a bad thing before it gets to lethal force, you should try that. And that's the part where I'm like, no, you can't say legally you don't have to do this, but you're going to want to do this. I mean, that's and I don't have the words there, but what I'm saying, you can't just go, well, in theory we're good to go. But in real life, in execution, you're going to want to do all these strategically horrible things first, just because sometimes the bad guy might not be a bad guy.
So what about air tasers?
Why should
regular tasers?
Yeah, like carry an air taser and a pistol. I mean, why not?
But why should I
do?
Well, but that's
I don't want
outside.
people to have to.
That's outside, right? And nor do we advocate that that's any better than ending an altercation than a gun.
Oh, I like an air. I don't know what you call it, air taser. A taser, the actual thing. I carry one all the time, and I do it because I don't want to have to shoot a gun sometimes, especially with the stray dog thing.
Sure.
I'm walking my dog, some dog comes up. I don't want to open fire.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to take both dogs and then kick that dog off of me, my dog, and then grab my dog and leave. But in a situation inside the house, I'm not going to say that I'm always looking to shoot people, because I know you guys aren't saying that either. But don't try to. It seems like when you guys are taking the other side, you're assuming that we are encouraging the use of lethal force. All I'm saying is I don't ever want to. I think we need to live in a place where there's never any scrutiny on the homeowner, the victim, for the use of lethal force, and no matter what the circumstances are. If it's the ex-boyfriend at the wrong house, drunk guy, wrong, everything was a giant mistake, we still shouldn't be persecuting that homeowner for.
No, absolutely
not. I don't think anyone's saying that we persecute them for it. It's more just what.
I mean, just as a society, not necessarily send them to jail. Obviously, we're all on that side.
I personally every day just wish people could be more adept and like handle their shit easier without involving so much drama and fighting and shooting and cops. I mean, obviously that would be ideal, but.
Well, I think the way that you create that isn't by making a billion shades of gray between black and white. I think the way you do that is by making black and white be as crisp a edge as possible, and then you have a situation where, again, how do criminals get started? I don't know anybody that robs houses, but I got to assume they probably start stealing money when they're little kids from like their parents or their friends or something, and then it escalates, and eventually they get really good at it. I don't think, in other words, that people are like, I'm going to break into homes because I got nothing to do on Thursday. Normally I like to play pool and I'm into cars, but I'm going to start breaking into houses. I suspect people that break into houses do it for occupation,
or they're so mixed up on drugs and so hungry for drugs.
Whatever the reasons are, but I'm just saying I think they do it for they know what they're doing is what I'm getting at, and that they're not just winging it. So. All I'm saying is we're creating an environment where you can be good at, your occupation can be breaking into homes. And it's not rocket science. I mean, I think if we all put our minds to it, we could figure out how to rob people fairly easily, because it's got to be really, really easy. However, I think that having a society which fosters it, basically, and I'll say fosters it because we're second-guessing it as firearms owners here. We're a bunch of people that are like-minded, and we're debating it. So we obviously live in a society where people are overall friendly and nice to each other, and they're taking the criminals are taking advantage of that. They know that exists. I'm suggesting little old lady doesn't need to know martial arts. Little old, war veteran doesn't need to have his wits about him anymore. If you live in a society where there's ultimately black and white, you break into someone's house, accident or not, blah, 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 this or that, other variables or not, you do not have the right to live after that. Now, whether or not you walk out of the home because that person decides to, what, actions to take, that's here nor there. But if you live in a society where there's always going to be a what if, and there's always going to be an attorney willing to decide this and that, then you foster that I'm going to take advantage of other people because I don't care. That's all I'm saying. I don't think you need to live in a martial society to just have those black and white rules, which will stop a lot of the 13-year-old kids from deciding I'm going to grow up and be a home invader for my occupation.
Absolutely.
I think most of us just kind of agreed on that, but I think a couple of us were kind of more going on, more just kind of our own moral opinion or kind of our own situation as opposed to what we think, opposed to obligating people to do certain things. And I don't think anyone should be obligated to.
I agree.
Well, on that note, I would need to cut this off.
Some guy's obligated to keep going, but he won't.
No, man, it's 2.5 hours. I got to get to bed. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, so Great friggin' chat, man. This is probably one of the better chats I've had in a while. So
Too bad we can't make it a podcast because I wasn't in enough of it to qualify it as a podcast.
But so I don't know. We'll probably open up a lobby and continue that over there on gun channels. But I appreciate everybody tuning in and participating here. And we'll see you next time.